Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the City Council special closed, I'm on the wrong one. Good afternoon, and welcome to the City Council study session meeting of Tuesday, May 13th, 2025. I now call the meeting to order. Please stand and let's say the Pledge of Allegiance together. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, could you please do the roll call?
Mr. Mayor, the record will reflect that all council is present.
Terrific. Okay, so we have one study session item tonight, and what we'll do is have the staff report, and then we'll have questions from, well, actually, let's do the staff report and then hear from the public. Okay, so with that, would you please read the title?
Fiscal year 2025-2026 proposed budget study session. Presentation by Ms. Molina, Finance Director.
Okay, Ms. Molina, you have the floor.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, City Council members. It is my pleasure tonight to bring forward the 25-26 proposed operating and capital improvement project fund before you tonight. I do want to take a few moments to thank city staff. This is quite an undertaking, especially this year. As you know, the city can do with a lot of increases. They need a lot of resources, but everybody really tightened up, took a look at what they really needed to be able to bring forth to you a fully balanced budget tonight.
Excuse me, Carol, just for a real quick second. So we normally have the PowerPoint. Is somebody printing that out?
Yes, somebody's printing it out.
Super.
I'll get to you shortly.
All right, thank you.
So as you know, with the last couple years, we introduced a theme to our budget. This year's budget theme is we are focused, efficient, and resilient. Tonight, we will go through an overview of the state of the economy. We'll bring forth the 25-26 guiding principles, the revenue highlights, as well as our expenditures. We will discuss our general fund reserves. We'll go through some of the major accomplishments we've been accomplishing of this last year, and we'll wrap things up with our budget calendar. For the economic update, I'm going to turn it over to our finance officer, Peter, to discuss the state of our economy. Peter?
Good evening. So going over the state of the economy, I'd say that the economy at this point is currently being driven by an overall theme that we all probably know these days called uncertainty. And that's, a lot of it is driven by a very dynamic fiscal policy, which is the tariffs that have been on again and off again. And it's negatively impacting the soft data, and soft data are things that like consumer confidence and things with like opinions and survey-based data. And in the near term, where you're seeing a negative bias there. But the hard data, things like retail sales, unemployment, that are based on actual hard data are coming in about neutral to positive at this point, because a lot of the impacts of tariffs at this point haven't been seen in that data. Consumer confidence, again, a soft data type of data point, is at its lowest point since the onset of the COVID pandemic, with the expectation index within that at the lowest level since 2011. Retail sales on the other side of that had a strong March. A lot of that was driven by consumers rushing certain purchases, especially large purchases in autos and electronics that were going to bear the brunt of tariffs ahead of the announced Liberation Day on April 2nd. So that did cause, on April 2nd, when that was announced, a subsequent massive stock sell-off that the market continues to respond positively to any news of trade negotiations, pending or otherwise active. And on Monday, with the US and China announced a trade truce that temporarily reduced tariffs between the two nations, the stock market rebounded dramatically, rising over 3% on the day, and as of today, turned slightly positive. Recession odds for this year have decreased, but are still elevated based on all the available information that economists are looking at, and inclusive of the U.S.-China trade truce that was announced on Monday. There's still an expectation of a general slowdown in GDP and so on. Travel and discretionary spending are at the most risk of slowdowns this year. That's where the consumer bears the brunt of most of the impacts to their finances due to these increased costs. And as of May 14th, we would see a new statewide proposed budget from the governor that will amend the initial one that was put out in January.
So back to when we start putting together the fiscal year proposed budget, we are inspired by the City Council's approved strategic planning goals, which include strengthening our public safety, improving the quality of life for our residents, diversifying, stabilizing, and increasing housing, advancing environmental sustainability and climate resiliency, recruiting and retaining high-quality staff, and achieving our long-term fiscal sustainability. So for our 25-26 proposed operating and capital improvement budget overview. So some of our highlights in our all funds budget includes an all funds budget of $224.4 million, a $15.4 million or 6% decrease from the current adopted fiscal year. We've designated over $100 million or 54% of general fund resources to our public safety departments for police and fire and rescue. We've invested $16.7 million in our city's parks, streets, transportation, facilities. We've increased our CalPERS contributions in our general fund by about $1.8 million. We fully annualized all of our labor contracts. We did include some funding for our current labor negotiations, and we funded $1.3 million into our Housing Authority Fund from the general fund. This is just to provide you an overview of the different types of funds that the city currently holds. Our general fund, which in essence is our largest, and it's also our unrestricted fund. Our special revenue funds, which they are restricted in funding. What can we use these fundings for? So our ARPA, Measure M, gas tax, RMRA, they're all restricted funds. Our internal service funds, which essentially is these funds that do businesses specifically for the city. Equipment replacement fund replaces all of our fleet, maintains our vehicles, includes gas. Our self-insurance funds includes general liability, insurance premiums, workers' compensation. And then our IT replacement fund, which, as you know, we started that a couple years ago, about 5 years ago, where we set aside 1.5% of our general fund revenues to help fund some of our larger software programs and the replacements. And finally, our capital improvement fund, which is essentially the general fund contribution of the CAN to help fund some of our capital projects and infrastructures. As you can see here, our general fund for 25-26 is expected at $186.9 million. It's 83% of the pie. Our special revenue funds is 8% at $17.2 million. All three internal service funds total $14.2 million or 6%, and our capital projects of $6.1 million or 3%. So for all of our funds, as you can see here, we adopted 24-25 at $239.8 million. We reduced the proposed budget in 25-26 by $15.4 million for a total of $224.4 million in our all funds budget. Our housing authority is essentially the fund that supports our homeless shelter and programs. It continues a contribution from the general fund of $1.3 million. It also includes a one-time state grant provided to us by Assemblywoman Cotty Petrie Norris of $750,000 to help towards our homeless program costs. It also includes all of our contractual obligations for Mercy House, Bracken's Kitchen, and it fully accounts for the contractual increase with the City of Newport Beach which increases by CPI to help support the 25 beds for Newport Beach at our bridge shelter. In our IT replacement fund, we fully funded the 1.5% of our general fund revenues for $2.8 million. $1.2 million is being set aside for year one of a 10-year depreciation schedule as the IT department goes through their new 5-year strategic planning cycle. It also accounts for 3 full-time employees for about $1.1 million and sets aside $500,000 towards our citywide desktop replacement program. In our self-insurance internal service fund, we are seeing an increase in our insurance premiums, so we are increasing this budget by about $320,000. It is fully supported by the general fund. For our Arts and Culture Master Plan Fund, this fund essentially allocates 0.5% of the Measure Q tax. So as you know, we've been talking that 0.5% hasn't been able to fully support the expenses as set aside for the Arts and Culture Master Plan. So this fund is currently for 25-26 about $175,000 short to be able to fully fund the Arts Master Plan. In addition, the Arts Commission on May 1st voted to recommend an increase to the 25-26 budget and a couple of allocations. They are requesting to reallocate the $100,000 that's set aside for the Smart Camp, moving $40,000 of that towards grants and leaving $60,000 for Smart Camp. And they're also requesting a rollover of $110,735 from the prior year unspent budget for a public arts program and repurposing a budget allocation towards $60,000 for a mural art program. So these recommendations would increase the shortfall in the Arts and Culture Master Plan. So this is giving you a high-level overview of the Arts and Culture Master Plan Fund. As you can see, the proposed budget as it is per the Arts and Culture Actual Plan would be upside down by about $189,000. If we were to include the Art Commission's recommendation, it would be upside down by $340,000. In prior years, the City Council has voted to allow the general fund to essentially balance the Arts and Culture Master Plan at the end of the fiscal year with any potential general fund surplus or reserves. For our full-time employees, we are also recommending a couple of changes in our positions. We're recommending to essentially eliminate a community outreach worker in the city manager's office and the Housing Authority Fund by 1 FTE. In the general fund, we are also recommending to remove 3 full-time employees in the city manager's office in a human resources analyst, a programmer analyst 1, a senior management analyst. However, in the police department, we're recommending to add 1 custody officer for a net difference of minus 2 positions in the general fund and 3 positions in all funds. For positions that we are recommending to keep frozen, these are positions that we would essentially keep on the table of organization, however, remove the funding. For development services, we're recommending an office specialist in one of their other funds for 1 full-time employee. In the general fund, 2 positions in development services, a chief of code enforcement officer, a code enforcement officer 2. In parks and community services, an office specialist 2. And then 4 positions in public works, making up of engineering technician 3, a facilities maintenance technician, maintenance supervisor, and a senior engineer for a total of 7 general fund positions recommended to be frozen and 8 in the all funds. So for all of our funds, for our CIP, as you know, our capital projects are funded not only through the general fund, the CAN, but through other funding sources. Our gas tax has set aside about $1 million. CDBG, $230,000. The TIF, which is a traffic impact fee, $420,000. Our cannabis, $150,000. Our RMRA, $2.9 million. The CIP, $2.2 million, essentially from the reserves in that fund. Measure M2 fair share, 2.8. Jack Hammett up at 100,000. Grant funds, about 6.9, for an all-funds budget of $16.7 million. In the CIPs as well, there is a notation that there is a potential future bond of $12 million for the fire station too. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Director Sethuraman so he can go through his CIP highlights.
Thank you, Ms. Molina. So, Mr. Mayor and council members, so in the CIP, we talked about this at our April 22nd study session also. We have $28.7 million of projects. And the major projects include Adams Avenue Aqua Transportation. This is between Royal Palm and Santa Ana River to implement trails in that area. And then Harbor Boulevard Rehabilitation. This is using RMRA funding, which is SB1 state funds, road maintenance rehabilitation account. Park security lighting replacement. This is mainly implementing minor repairs to park security lighting. Bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure to implement active transportation improvements throughout the city. Continuing the clean mobility options. This is grant-funded the shuttle, the micro-transit program that we have. So continuing that program for the next year. Pedestrian Safety Festival. This is a grant-funded, federal grant-funded project. It is to have a safety festival, 4 events on Harbor Boulevard between Newport and 19th Street to have a safety festival to promote bicycle and pedestrian safety as well as education. And the last one is the Fire Station 2 reconstruction. This is a large project which has that $12 million in bond financing that Ms. Molina referenced. So this shows the breakdown of the projects by category. As you can see, facilities has the biggest share, but mainly composed of the $12 million in bond financing. The next big one is the streets section with $7.3 million, a lot of funding from Measure M and gas tax and RMRA in this one. We also have transportation composed of many grant projects in that one. Parks account for a small percentage, but want to point out that we are currently working on many park projects, and we have the Ketchum, Leibolt, and Shalimar. The design is almost done, and construction would start in summer of this year, as well as the skate park. So we have quite a few park projects that are underway and will be implemented in the next year. With that, I'll transfer it back to Ms. Molina.
Thank you, Mr. Sethuraman. Okay, we'll go through the 25-26 general fund budget overview. As you can see here, our revenues have decreased by about $3 million or 2% for a proposed fiscal year 25-26 general fund of $186.9 million versus $189.9 million of the current adopted fiscal year. Our expenditures are realigned. So you can see our operating budget increased by about $4.4 million, but our transfers out were reduced to reflect a balanced budget of $106.9 million on both the revenue and the expense side. So I will go ahead and turn it over to Finance Officer Peter to go through the revenues.
So to review the general fund revenues side, so general fund revenue is projected at $186.9 million, which is reflecting a decrease of $3 million or 2% from the full year 24-25 adopted budget. Sales tax is estimated at $75.1 million, which is a decrease of $6.4 million or 8% from the current adopted budget. Property taxes are estimated at $63 million, which is reflecting a 4% growth over the current fiscal year. Transient occupancy tax, also known as TOT, are estimated at $9.8 million, reflecting a 3% decrease from full year budget of $10.1. Fees and charges are estimated at $13.2 million, reflecting a decrease of $84,000 from the full year adopted budget. This proposed budget number also includes some proposed targeted increases based on a user and regulatory fee that was conducted this year. The cannabis taxes are estimated at $3.6 million, which is an increase of $196,000 or 6% from the current year budget. And just to get into a bit of the fees in detail that are proposed, they break up into four major categories. The first one is a technology enhancement fee. That's to recover the costs of future development-related technology enhancements and system replacement. The proposed fee would be collected as 5% of applicable permit fees. The general plan update fee, that's a new fee, is proposed to help offset the costs of general plan and supporting document updates. The proposed fee will be collected as 5% of applicable permit fees. A credit card transaction processing fee. The new fee is intended to offset processing fees charged by the city's credit card payment processors. The fee would only apply to applicants that pay fees with a credit card, and the proposed fee is 2.7% of the amount paid by credit card. And inflationary adjustment fees, that would reflect a CPI increase of this year of 3.5% applied. For the golf course budget for this year, reflects an increases to greens fees of $2 for juniors and seniors on the weekdays Monday to Thursday, $3 for the twilight session, but $4 on a Friday, Sunday, and $5 for the generic 18 holes on the weekdays and $6 Saturdays and Sundays. The tennis center court rental fees are being reviewed at the moment, but given the size of the revenues that the tennis center pulls in, that would only have a minimal impact at this time to the budget. This is just a graphical representation of that the general fund revenues broken down. It paints a good picture of, about 75% of the revenues are composed of property taxes and sales taxes, with transient occupancy tax at 5%, another major contributor, and the fees and charges. So taken together, that's the bulk of the revenues that you can see there.
Thank you, Peter. As you can see, the 25-26 proposed general fund is structurally balanced without the use of ARPA or reserves. We are fully committed to public safety by allocating 54% of our general fund towards police and fire. We are recommending to fund an additional custody officer in the police department while reducing 3 positions in the city manager's office for a net decrease of 2 positions in the general fund. Staff is also requesting to enact the emergency exception clause of the 5% general fund revenue contribution towards the capital asset needs. City staff is also recommending to utilize available fund balance in the Capital Improvement Program Fund, Fund 401, to fund the $2.2 million in capital projects that are included in the CIP. The total proposed CIP is $28.7 million, which does include the $12 million future bond for Fire Station 2. The budget includes the pension cost annual increase of $1.8 million. It does continue the vacancy factor of 4.3 million, 3.7 is in the police department, and it fully complies with the information technology needs code of 1.5% of general fund revenue. So for the breakdown of the general fund, you can see over 50% of the public of the general fund is dedicated to public safety. Police coming in with a higher at $62.8 million, followed by the fire and rescue department of $38.9 million. As you can see, the other departments are significantly less, only followed by 12% from public works and going all the way down to 0.6% for the city attorney. In the police department, there's 142 sworn staffing levels fully funded in the general fund. This is the highest level of police sworn staffing since the Great Recession. There's other annualized enhancements that are included: the custody officer, the contractual obligations of about $1 million, $1 million in funding for new vehicles, and $59,000 for gun range maintenance, mobile data connection services for first responders, and public safety health counseling services. In the Fire and Rescue Department, we have 85 sworn staffing positions, all fully funded by a net increase of $1.1 million. We're also requesting to increase our firefighters, they're called PPEs, the protective equipment, by about $30,000, $20,000 for training of our EOC center and telecommunication staff, and allocating a light truck for about $100,000. For our long-term fiscal sustainability. So as you can see here, our general fund balance has grown in the last few years. Back in 2020, 21, the height of the pandemic, we were at $53.5 million. We ended 24, 25 at $60.4 million. We are a structurally balanced general fund budget without using reserves. We fully funded the IT replacement fund, and we continue to include the $1 million payment for the Fire Station 2. We also wanted to call out some of the requests that the City Council mentioned at the last City Council meeting. A couple of the requests were to look at the CAN, review any additional capital improvement projects that could be deferred, review the current tenant center fees, also review open contracts that could be reduced, and review any additional vacant positions that could be eliminated. For our capital asset needs, how it reads today is the city shall allocate the 5% of general fund revenue towards capital. We have I'm not going to read through this, a whole slew of areas that these funds can be allocated to in the 401 fund. We are, at this moment in time, requesting to enact the emergency exception clause due to the economic downturn. So you will see that in A2, which is an economic downturn, which would need supermajority approval of the City Council in order to do that for the 25-26 budget. And then in the event the provisions applied, the city should develop a plan to replenish the funds. For the optional CIP projects for deferral, I will leave that to Director Sethuraman.
Thank you, Ms. Molina. So this list, some of the projects you have seen before in the previous deferral submittal. And we also added in a few other projects that haven't started yet. So while we're giving you this list doesn't mean that these are not needed, but just giving you a list of projects that haven't started, we haven't started work on. There is one project, Mesa Del Mar Multimodal Access. There is some work going on that project, but down the road, we think we can use other funding sources to continue that project.
All right. We were also asked to look at city contracts. We went through an extensive process of looking through our contracts, came up with a list of contracts that are currently in the budget we feel strongly cannot be reduced. There's contracts of, for example, our parks and landscape maintenance, ambulance transportation, street sweeping, our police mobile video system, traffic signal maintenance, citywide tree trimming services, our animal shelter services, crossing guards, our EMS supplies, transportation services for seniors, obviously janitorial services, police department HVAC maintenance, ambulance transports, litigation, and security guards services. As you can see here, this is just a high-level overview of some of the contracts that are included within the general fund that we feel strongly cannot be reduced. We scrubbed, took a deep dive in, but all of the departments are pretty tight in their operating. They're able to provide their services according to the operating budget that they currently have and that we're proposing for 25-26. For our tenant center fees, currently the operator pays the city 10% of gross revenue from all court use revenue sources and pro shop sales. The total tenant center is estimated to generate approximately $1 million next year, 10% of which, or $100,000, is the city's share. Any fees and charges that are set by the operator are subject to final approval by the city manager or designee. So of the total revenues, court fees generate approximately $90,000, or for the city share, $9,000. So we wanted to provide a kind of a comparable. So you see how Fountain Valley Tennis Center is about $12, Costa Mesa charges $8. So we're kind of a little bit in line. Maybe we can go up a little bit, but again, the dollars would not be very significant in this area. We also wanted to provide you with all of our fees that the City of Costa Mesa Tennis Center offers. So as you can see here, it's pretty extensive fee. We did not go through the detail of comparing every single one of these fees. We focused more on the court fees. So for the major accomplishments, we wanted to invite our department directors and chiefs to go over some of the major accomplishments within each one of their departments. So as you know, our mission statement, the City of Costa Mesa serves our residents, businesses, and visitors while promoting a safe, inclusive, and vibrant community. Our core values include integrity, sustainability, compassion, innovation, inclusion, and collaboration. Our surgeon planning goals include the recruiting and retaining high-quality staff, achieving our long-term fiscal sustainability, strengthening the public safety and improvement of quality of life, diversify, stabilize, and increase housing to reflect community needs, and advance environmental sustainability and climate resiliency. Here is a picture of our executive leadership. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Acting City Manager, Cecilia.
So we're going to start with the city manager's list of accomplishments, and I'm going to turn it over to Alma Reyes to walk us through those.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. First and foremost, I'd like to start by thanking you for your support and your vision through this last fiscal year. We were able to accomplish a lot in our City Manager's office, and I'm here to share all those great accomplishments with you tonight. First, as you are aware, our city continues to attract professional levels of different teams and organizations that are interested in leasing facilities from in specific Jack Canvas Sports Complex. So currently, the city manager's team continues to negotiate professional agreements with either professional NFL teams or NCAA Division I college football teams to host their training camps here in Costa Mesa, which is always such a delight to have and bring to our community. So that's ongoing. We've also have planned and hosted city signature events that are beloved by our community and very well attended. And these events include Earth Day, Love Costa Mesa Day, the July 3rd event. That's in the tens, thousands of attendees that come out every year, and this keeps getting better and better. Concerts in the Park, which we partner with our Parks and Community Services Department, our annual Hispanic Heritage Month, and our beloved Snoopy House. These are some of the events that our team in the City Manager's Office helps facilitate, coordinate, plan, and organize. As far as working with the community as well, we're currently completing the final process for the land acquisition of the 778 Shalimar Drive property, including tenant relocation to city-owned units. In terms of legislative efforts led by our Government Affairs Manager, Jay Barkman, he's been working closely with our Development Services Department and our state agencies, coordinating with DGS, DDS, and Cal OES to monitor the FDC site development, budget funding, and present financial feasibility analysis to DGS. Also, through his work, he's met with the legislative review team to review federal and state activities, bills, and earmark requests. That we've been very successful in working with our local representatives in securing funding for projects. Also, the tracking and reviewing of state budget actions and review federal appropriations process and submitted earmark requests. We've also tracked, reviewed the current executive orders and administrative actions impacting city and responding to council requests on impacts to seniors. We've also developed the city's first legislative platform with input from our city department directors to be presented to the city council in a near future meeting. And then we've also provided support to city department and legislative reports and assistance on reviewing impacts of legislation such as advanced clean fleets, sober living homes, Prop 36, and retail theft, and on grant applications as well as securing funding for different projects. Sorry, excuse me. In efforts to provide the highest level of customer service and responsiveness to our constituents and as well as to our city council, I want to share some of our accomplishments from our constituent services team, which I want to take a moment to recognize them. Evis Torres and Sergio Escobar, along with Lydian Hansen and Sandy, who support not only the council, but also the departments and our constituents. And I'd like to share some numbers to show you their hard work throughout the year. They've managed over 287 constituent inquiries, have facilitated over 404 council constituent requests, supported 37 community outreach events, including community resource fairs, legal aid workshops, fair housing, and tenant protection workshops. We've also recognized 20 local businesses at the Chamber of Commerce events when they host their ribbon-cutting ceremonies. They've also created a total of 263 certificates of recognition and proclamations that are presented by the mayor and city council. They've also responded to a total of 43 constituent inquiries regarding tenancy and housing questions regarding our TPO. Also from the city manager's office, we strive to continue to encourage civic engagement and expand the city's outreach efforts that are led by our Community Relations Manager, Brock Howard. In his time here, we knew that this position was critical to ensure that our efforts are intentional when we're seeking, feedback from our community. So I'm going to share some of our accomplishments in that area. We've assisted city departments in developing, advertising, and hosting 24 community events or meetings. We've assisted departments in the development and execution of 5 community surveys. Also have attended 20 meetings hosted by our community partners. We've created the Let's Go Costa Mesa Shuttle Program outreach and communications campaign that has resulted in an increase in ridership and brand awareness. So if you see the goat out around town, that's Brock's work. We've also created the Let's Do Business awareness campaign for local businesses interested in service contracts with the city of Costa Mesa. We've worked with the Economic and Development Services Department to develop marketing materials and outreach campaigns in support of the Mobile Home Park Advisory Committee. Also developing marketing materials and outreach campaigns for the launch of Tessa's Insta Permits program. We also worked with IT to develop a constituent management program through Tyler 311 to improve our responsiveness and tracking capabilities of constituent requests. We've worked with Public Works to develop a construction signage program to increase branding and community awareness in public corridors and parks. We've also worked with city departments to host pop-up informational booths at city and community events. Now on to our communications and marketing team, which is led by our PIO, Tony Dodero, and we have our amazing award-winning CMTV team, as well as our new social media specialists that continue to promote the city at the highest standard, professional grade. So it really sets us apart from many, many communities. So some of the accomplishments include 7 awards for CMTV across 2 different award shows. They've improved public outreach efforts in both English and Spanish for important community issues such as rental assistance, waste management, residential parking, et cetera. These are all, and also including traditional door-to-door canvassing. So not only are we doing things on social media via web, but we're also doing some door knocking and some of the more traditional community outreach efforts. We've also created new informational web pages for key topics, such as the city's new streamlined Insta Permits, community outreach regarding Fairview Developmental Center specific plan, and the new mural permit process. On Instagram, we've seen strong growth. Views are up 132%. The reach increased by 183%, follows rose by 71%, and contact interactions surged 108%. For Facebook performance, we've improved significantly. Views are up 166%. Our reach is up 97%, followed by an increase of 70%, and content interactions have jumped to 164%. So these are really great numbers and shows that people are following us, they're being informed, and they're also participating and providing feedback through these platforms. On LinkedIn, the engagement has spiked. Impressions are up 102%. Reactions have rose to 106%, and repost experience have experienced a dramatic 500% increase on LinkedIn. So this is great news because this is where we are also able to market the city and attract the best and brightest to come work here in Costa Mesa. Additionally, to our efforts on social media, we've also have the preparation and development of communication materials, such as the City Hall Snapshot, the Costa Mesa Minute, which is also in Spanish, El Minuto. We've improved our public outreach efforts through both English and Spanish marketing materials for major initiatives. And again, this is to encourage engagement from all of our neighborhoods, and whether it's city matters, capital projects, and just information in general that, that's provided by the departments, and we are able to relate that information to the community in both in English and in Spanish. We've also worked on the preparation and development of the communication materials, which I've already covered. Sorry about that. So now on to the accomplishments for our network for homeless solutions, which is led by our manager, Nate Robbins, and his compassionate and dedicated team. I mean, the work that is, produced over at the Bridge Shelter is just incredible, and how many lives that they touch day in and day out. So I'm here to share some of their great accomplishments. They launched the street medicine program in partnership with CalOptima. They've added 15 behavioral health beds through a grant with OC Healthcare Agency for in a total of $3.4 million. Completed construction and leased 40 permanent supportive housing units at the Mesa Vista Apartments, the former Motel 6. The Homelessness and Housing Division has hired 4 new outreach workers to provide case management of clients at the Costa Mesa Bridge Shelter. The Mesa Vista Apartments received $23 million in low-income housing tax credits to complete Phase 2 of the project, which will produce 46 units of affordable housing for very low-income Costa Mesa seniors. We've also hired 4 new outreach workers to provide case management of clients at the Bridge Shelter. We've received $750,000 from Assemblywoman Cotty Petrie Norris to expand behavioral health care at the Bridge Shelter for 15 additional guests. We've also developed and successfully activated an inclement weather shelter in partnership with the Lighthouse Church, which served over 100 people during 2 severe weather events. We've also successfully housed 442 individuals since April of 2019 and received over 2,000 calls to the NHS hotline from individuals seeking assistance. These are all remarkable numbers of the great work that this team, has completed. And I mean, this is a 24/7-hour operation. So they're always, all you have to do is pick up the phone and they're there to answer and help support in any way that they can. Also, to bring you updates from our Human Resources Division, which is led by our HR manager, Costa Mesa, and her outstanding team. We've conducted ongoing recruitment processes in partnership with police and fire and rescue departments to implement a hiring and referral incentive program, and negotiated a side letter with the Costa Mesa City Employees Association to retain and proactively attract and hire public safety dispatchers. We've also conducted an ongoing recruitment process in partnership with the police and fire and rescue departments, and implement the hiring and referral incentive programs to proactively attract, hire police recruits, police academy graduates, and police officers. We've also completed recruitment for key management positions, including the Economic and Development Services Director and our Transportation Manager, 2 key functions in the city. So we're really proud of being able to attract top talent to come to Costa Mesa. We've also continued our wellness programs, offering wellness seminars and activities for all city employees to promote health and safety, including expanding the Employee Assistance Program. We've developed the Costa Mesa University Leadership Training and Mentoring Program for all city employees, which will also help with retention and succession planning. We've successfully negotiated with various bargaining groups that include CMFA, CMFMA, and CMDMA. Now, an update for our city clerk's office, which is led by our city clerk, Brenda Green, and her hardworking team. I mean, they put in so many hours, especially on agenda week. So many thanks to them for all the work that they do and all the work that they handle. They're the first touch point when you walk into City Hall. So some of the accomplishments for this year include successfully conducted the 2024 general election. The concierge service, they've served about 41,571 citizens via telephone, the walk-in inquiries, and also have ensured bilingual staff is available to readily assist our public. They've processed 1,076 public records requests in compliance with the Public Records Act. They've processed 54 subpoenas for records and appearance and 15 summons. They've successfully conducted 24 city council meetings, 19 regular city council meetings, and 5 city council study session meetings via hybrid format, which is in person or via Zoom. They've also provided English and Spanish translation and interpretation services at all 24 city council meetings and provided Spanish translation of all agendas and agenda reports. Also promoted transparency in local government by facilitating the scanning and importing of 5,000 documents into Laserfish electronic document imaging system and providing the public access to these documents. They've also successfully completed 3 commission and committee recruitments. Now I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to our Economic and Development Services Director, Carrie.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. Thank you for the opportunity tonight to share some of the accomplishments from the Economic and Development Services Department. While this certainly is not the exhaustive and complete list as everything that's in the budget book, it is still my pleasure to be in front of you tonight to be able to share some of these numbers. So, during the past fiscal year, which is not exactly over yet, we estimate that we have approved 350 total housing units, and that includes 118 accessory dwelling units. Much of that was facilitated by some of the accessory dwelling unit programs, as well as the updated ordinance that the city staff worked on, which has made it easier for folks to get their ADUs permitted. The city's department and partnered with the city attorney's office, the city manager's office, and also the folks over at Jamboree Housing completed approval for the Jamboree Affordable Senior Residential Development, which will add 70 affordable senior units next to the city's senior center. And so that was a very fulfilling project, a perfect site for that kind of a project. I'm also happy to announce and share that the city is currently processing housing applications for totaling over 1,300 units. That means those are applications that are currently on our books and that are slowly making their way through the review process. And that does not include, for example, the planning process for the Fairview Developmental Center, which is targeted at several thousand units even. So these are just active applications that we are working on that you will be seeing through public hearings in the next couple of months. I'd like to share that the Housing Grants team administered $1.4 million in CDBG, that's Community Development Block Grant funds, as well as home funds. This fiscal year, we assisted with 10 home rehabilitation loans and provided tenant rental assistance for 92 individuals, including children. On the front of our online permitting system, there has been an extraordinary amount of internal configuration, refinement, and enhancement of reporting capabilities. One of the more visible developments as part of our TESA system is the rollout of 10 distinct Insta permits to streamline and provide better customer service for the community. Insta permits are actually 10 different kinds of building permits that folks can apply for on the city's TESA website, and they can do their entire transaction electronically, and they never have to come into City Hall. Everything's automated all the way through payment and issuance of permit. And if everything goes great, the first person they actually interact with is the city building inspector when their project is inspected. And so this is a really groundbreaking feature that the city was able to roll out as part of the TESA program. The other exciting news to share is that a couple months ago, the city's online permitting system was awarded the Turning Red Tape into Red Carpet Award by the Orange County Business Council. And as part of that award, the city competed against several other cities that have permitting systems. But given the work, the care, and the thought process that went into implementing TESA, the features of TESA were able to prevail, and we were able to take home that award. Our long-range planning team has had their hands full, and I just have 2 items tonight. I already mentioned the Fairview Developmental Center specific plan effort, which we've made great strides on and is ongoing. But also very exciting is that at the beginning, or actually last fall, the city completed the request for proposal, the RFP, for the city's rezoning program, and that would implement some of the areas identified through Measure K that would be able to be studied to create the housing capacity identified as part of the city's adopted housing element. And I always like to note and remind us that this rezoning effort is the last major step for the housing element to be able to be eligible for certification by the state of California. Another exciting effort is the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan, which kicked off last fall. The City Council awarded that contract, and we've been hard at work putting together the foundation for that program. We recently had our successful community engagement launch as part of the city's Earth Day celebration. And then lastly, as part of our Building and Safety Division and our code enforcement groups. So Building and Safety is the division in charge of running through checking plans to ensure that they meet the California Building Code and also issuing building permits and performing the inspections. And our code enforcement groups maintain the quality of life throughout the city, neighbor concerns, noise concerns, construction concerns. And this year, our code enforcement group addressed 1,800 complaints and inquiries and managed 800 code enforcement cases. Our Building and Safety Division issued 2,800 building permits, and our inspectors performed 24,000 next business day building inspections. And just by way of people, we had, for the better part of this past fiscal year, 5 building inspectors. So 5 people, 24,000 inspections. So that's a summary of some of our accomplishments, and the full list is in the budget book, and thank you for this opportunity.
We'd like to welcome up the Fire and Rescue Chief.
Good evening, Mayor Stevens, members of the council. It's an honor to be here tonight and present a summary of the accomplishments that we've had as an organization. I would like to start off, though, and just share my thanks with the city manager's office for bringing tonight and making it happen. Great job to the staff, outstanding, and to our finance department, the work that they do on a daily basis. Particularly the budget never stops, whether it's the budget itself, the mid-year, but great job. So just recognize that and appreciate the great work you do. Which brings us to the reality that the Fire and Rescue Department does a lot, and public safety is a priority for the city. There's no question about that. This city council has made it a priority, and not just with the words they share, but they have provided us the resources to do the job, and that is really what matters, because the priority is for us to be able to do the job. And our priority are our people, the people who serve, our professional firefighters, but every rank and role in our organization, and every position in the city. We're integrated in all that we do. Every single department in the city is integrated with the great work we do, whether it's public works and the projects we work together, putting a fire station together, whether it's to get the funding we need for our infrastructure, whether it's the IT department that is a lot of times under the radar, but does quite a bit for the city and a lot for us. Our public safety partners in the police department, we've got a great relationship, and that's not always the case, but we are very fortunate in what we have. But every single department plays a key role in the city, and we recognize that. We're one piece of that. So we're grateful for that. Tonight, we're going to go through some summary items, and I just want to, before I pass it over to my two assistant chiefs that are going to walk you through, Assistant Chief Jason Pyle of Operations and Assistant Chief and Fire Marshal John Neal. They're going to hit some bullet points. I want to make it clear, while we're sharing just a bit of the accomplishments that we have collectively achieved, and we're very proud of them, one thing that we always do is also take a look at our gaps. Where are there areas we can improve? Where are there areas that we can fine tune and refine as we go through each year? And so on that occasion tonight, it is appropriate. We are actually releasing, I'm going to do a plug here, our annual report that we put out every year. And again, it gives us the opportunity to highlight the accomplishments, but also for us, take a deep dive and a look at where we can improve and serve the community to the best of our ability, because that is our mission. Serving and protecting the community to the best of our ability with professionalism, excellence, and leadership. And we do that with and through our people. We're very fortunate. So with that, I'll turn it over to, again, Assistant Chief of Operations Jason Pyle and Assistant Chief Fire Marshal John Neal to walk you through some of the highlights. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. It's our pleasure to present to you a small portion that comes from the budget book and also from, as the Chief said, our end report for a more in-depth dive. But just to go over a couple items for this evening and in conservation of time, one of our biggest accomplishments that we'd like to tout tonight is the recruitment and hiring process of our firefighters and firefighter paramedic and promotional testings and expanding our cadet and intern programs. The people of our department are the key of what makes us work, and so that process in collaboration with HR and all the other city staff, including the finance department, the city manager's office, in order to obtain that recruitment process is a key function in order for us to be sustainable and successful. In doing so, we responded to 13,749 emergency incidents, and that's inclusive of 15 Cal OES deployments, or also known as the Wildland, into the greater state mission throughout the state of California. Our EMS transported 7,790 patients. We recovered slightly over $7.5 million in ambulance transportation cost recovery revenue, and we conducted 2,929 fire and life safety inspections. I'll turn it over to Chief Neal.
Good evening. So just to piggyback on those life safety inspections, those are a combination of both the mandated inspections that you'll see at the next council meeting in our report for compliance that we do each year, and also the existing occupancies that we have that are higher hazard in the city. So we do regular annual occupancies or triennial occupancies based on those hazards or the use that are happening. And that's a combination of both the crews that serve on the fire engines and trucks and our community risk reduction personnel that do those inspections. You can see here we have 984 plan reviews, about 50% of what the building department does, but we also highlight our collaboration with the other divisions. So it could be special event permits, pyrotechnic sales through our fireworks booths that the finance department issues, or some road closures that may impact our public safety response. So we truly collaborate across all the divisions in the city. We made significant progress on our strategic plan, as you can see from these next highlights. We continue to make significant progress in the design of our Fire Station 2 and are getting really close to having our 90% plan check submittal, which is a significant milestone in that project. Our regional training center at Fire Station 4 has gone vertical. If you've driven by that recently, you can see from the street that we're actually getting some actual substantial progress there on the construction and continue to move forward there, as infrastructure is one of our primary goals in that strategic plan. And then you can see we have our new engine tiller truck, and 6 ambulances that went in service this last year, as well as technology is one of the true highlights of what we made progress on this year. And we have our drone program, as well as tablet command incident response management. So just a few of the highlights that we have here to kind of show what we've done. And as Chief said, you can see a comprehensive review in our annual report. Thanks.
And with that, just want to thank again the council, thank all of our comrades, our staff throughout the city and the community we serve. I'm going to do one last plug here. We are on a town hall. We're on the third of 3 town halls for community preparedness, a joint effort with police, fire, and our emergency management team. It's this Thursday at the Balearic Center at 5:30. And again, everything you want to know about emergency preparedness and Costa Mesa is on it. With that, thank you very much.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I want to thank my command staff who are here, Deputy Chief LaPointe, Brian Watkins, Captain of Operations, and Jason Chamness, Captain of Support Services, who do all the work in the police department. I get the privilege of highlighting all of their great work. I want to echo the fire chief's comments about our city team here, our fellow directors. All of us do our great work together as one team, and I'm just so fortunate and blessed to be surrounded with a great team of colleagues that help us in all the things that we do in the police department. And the council, thank you for your support of public safety, always supportive, as the fire chief mentioned, not just in word, but in deed. You've always been supportive of what we need to get done, and the men and women that support our community day in and day out. And lastly, our community, who supports their police department. And that's not true in every city. But in Costa Mesa, we have tremendous support from our community, and our police officers, and our dispatchers, our record staff, they know that and they respect that. So last year, we responded to 98,360 police calls for service. We made 5,143 criminal arrests protecting victims and property owners. We issued 9,698 traffic citations. And our overall crime reduction in Part 1 crimes was reduced by 11.67%. That included a 40% drop in robberies, 12% drop in burglaries, 20% decrease in theft, 6% decrease in motor vehicle theft. We also utilized a $3.5 million grant that we secured from the state of California over a 3-year period. This grant allowed us to focus on organized retail theft, resulting in a decrease of 30% in organized retail theft incidents. We acquired new state-of-the-art body-worn cameras and in-vehicle cameras to improve our evidence collection, integration with other agencies, and personnel oversight. Also using grant funds, we were able to expand our automated license plate reader to 46 cameras. That's in addition to 18 community-sponsored cameras for a total of 64. That has allowed us to make over 70 felony arrests last year, the recovery of 40 stolen vehicles valued at a little over $1.2 million. We also acquired innovative technology and tools to increase apprehension rates and reduce crime, including data analytics software, vehicle forensic software, and mobile phone forensic software, as well as other technologies to help us identify criminals and apprehend suspects. We successfully processed 55 sworn recruits and 21 professional staffs, resulting in 44 employees hired, 12 promotions, which were 5 sergeants, 3 community service specialists, 1 custody officer, 1 park ranger, and 2 senior police records technicians. We expanded our wellness services, providing programs to address the physical and mental demands placed on law enforcement professionals, both in our psychological counseling and our physical well-being. And our community policing unit cleared 110 encampments last year. They housed 25 people, connected 20 individuals with the detox and treatment, and reconnected several people with family support out of state. In addition, they made 255 arrests and issued 38 citations. Costa Mesa Police Department's social media grew by over 9,000 followers, and with our Next Door platform, we have a total of almost 113,000 social media followers, another 59 people, and we'll get 113,000 followers. We also hosted 63 community outreach events, including Coffee with the Cop, National Night Out, Santa's Sleigh, Shop with the Cop, and others. And this is just a small sampling of the summary of the police department, and I want to this time turn it over to my good colleague and friend, IT Director Steve Ely.
Thank you, Chief. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for letting me discuss a few of our accomplishments. And these accomplishments wouldn't be completed if it weren't for the hard work of our employees. So We've upgraded our Windows Server operating systems across the board, both servers and SQL servers. We upgraded our Microsoft Office suite, which also included Teams, which is a nice enterprise software that lets us communicate amongst the enterprise and do business internally over the enterprise. We created a separate intranet site for the police department. We implemented a new fire incident response, GIS web map application for the fire department. We audited our campus fiber to mitigate network downtime at City Hall, and by doing that audit, we were actually able to save about $1,400 a month by eliminating some of the runs. We updated our enterprise storage array for better performance, capacity, resilience, and speed. And updating these type of things, obviously, what we also do is we future-proof it. So we're going to be using this same equipment for as when we get ERP in. That's going to need storage. And so we sized this for those future endeavors. We replaced our battery backup power for dispatch to increase their runtime and reliability. We also created and implemented SQL Server reporting services for the finance department. And that is just a few of what we've done, and now what I'd like to do is introduce our director from Parks and Community Service, Director Gruner.
Thank you, and good evening, Honorary Mayor, council members, members of the community. Just like to echo what has been already said. Truly a great team. I've just been here for a little over a year now, and I'm very, very impressed with the camaraderie and the teamwork that goes into what we do day in and day out. The Parks and Community Services is one of those departments. We're very forward-facing, directly engaging with the public day in and day out, whether it's our programs, our services at the Senior Center, or at the Aquatic Center, or some of the special events that we do. So it's a great opportunity to always be engaged with the community and hear firsthand exactly the thoughts, concerns, or the wants and desires of our community. So with that, I just want to highlight a few of our accomplishments. Starting off with the Senior Center, Meals on Wheels, we were able to serve 38,911 seniors throughout the community. And that is just year to date currently, so that's not quite finishing out the whole year yet. But it's a great service. And not only is it a service to provide food, but it's also a service to provide a social engagement. And that's really one of the most important elements of the Meals on Wheels program. In addition to that, the Senior Mobility Program has increased ridership by 30% over the last 12 months or so, increasing from 17,000 to 22,000 rides. Which is a great accomplishment and achievement, and just shows the need of having this type of service here in Costa Mesa. I also want to highlight some of the partnerships that we have further strengthened throughout the year, especially with Newport Mesa Unified School District and SOI. And we offered, for example, throughout the year about 1,300 swim lessons. Of those were about 100 free swim lessons in conjunction with the Newport Mesa Unified School District, as well as SOI and the free spring swim camp that we had just about a month ago. I also want to highlight the new adaptive programming. We had over 400 participants participate in 4 of the seasonal dances and special events that we have done throughout the year. And we have also done a couple of resource fairs that had over 30 vendors, and we had over 100 participants or attendees come through that and obtain some important information when it comes to adaptive programs. I also want to highlight Fairview Park. The Fairview Park Master Plan draft is in completion mode, and it is going to be presented to council here within the next few weeks. So we're very excited for that accomplishment and trying to wrap that master plan up and look forward to the implementation part. The Mesa Restoration Project is currently, actually, we went out for RFP, so we're in the process of hopefully awarding a contract here very shortly. Right now, it's nesting season. There's not much that we can do in getting that project started, but that will be coming to council as well, probably in August. And then we're looking to start that project in October after the nesting season. And we also initiate the bluff restoration project, and we did go out to RFP, so waiting back to see those respondents and move forward with that project as well. Speaking of Newport Mesa Unified School District, we're still providing the security services for Whittier, Wilson, and Ray Elementary for the joint use field access, and that has been going really well. Over at the tennis center, we've implemented, along with the operator over there, a new tennis court management system that includes a point-of-sale system as well as a court reservation system. And we're in the process of getting those participants over there registered as a free membership so that we can not only track some of the data, but they can also make reservations, and it's a much better process than calling in by phone. And then as for the arts and culture master plan and the program itself, the installation of the Poet Laureate, Danielle Hansen, has been a great success. This is our first Poet Laureate here in Costa Mesa, so we're very excited for that opportunity. It's a 2-year contract agreement that we have with her in place, and it's just going to be, I think, a great benefit to the community. We also expanded the art venture to a multi-day event. That was just due to a great demand, and what a great program that is. We also awarded $20,000 in grants to local artists and art organizations, and thank you to council for increasing that last year from $10,000 to $20,000. It has certainly benefited a lot of the art organizations here in Costa Mesa, so we're very excited for that. And then we also adopted guidelines for public art donations, and we implemented best practices and a free permitting process through TESA for murals on private property. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our Public Works Director, Raja Satharaman.
Thank you, Mr. Gruner. So Public Works, again, I made this presentation last week, so I'll be brief. But we are led by, we have a 70-member team led by 4 managers, and they include Patrick Bauer, who's our Deputy Public Works Director, Sung Yang, our City Engineer, Paul Martin, our Transportation Manager, and Rob Ryan, our Maintenance Services Manager. And we have quite a few accomplishments, and I'll just briefly go through them. The first one is that we launched the Let's Go Costa Mesa on-demand micro transit service. It's doing great. The ridership on that has increased significantly since we launched. I'll have some more metrics in detail. I'll share that with you, but it's very successful. We completed our citywide bike wayfinding signing program, and so you can see those signs throughout the city. We have organized bike to school and walk to school days. Again, that program has grown so much over time. The number of kids that participate, we are in the thousands right now, and number of schools, we have about 8 or 9 schools that are in this program. We finished our major project at Adams Avenue and Pine Creek Drive, and that already won an award from ASE for the best for the outstanding trails project. And then we completed a design of Fairview Road active transportation improvements between Fair and Newport. We received good bids on that, and we'll come to you soon for awarding the contract for construction on that one. And we lowered posted speed limits on over 70 roadway segments throughout the city. On the engineering side, we completed the construction of Adams Avenue Street Rehab project. That definitely improves our PCI throughout the city. The police department range remodel was another accomplishment. The design of Shalimar and Ketchumlai Bolt are now complete. They're in the final check process, but we'll be going out to bid on that shortly, and we'll be coming to you for contract award and start construction in summer of this year. We completed the outreach and design, preliminary design for the skate park. Again, we hope to get the final design completed in the next 2 months and go to bid on this project. Several street rehabilitation projects are underway. Right now, there's construction going on, again, to keep our PCI, pavement condition index, at 85 or higher if possible. And then we substantially completed the design of Station 2. So that's also coming along well. And we are constructing the training room in the basement and IT offices. So that has started and moving along. On the maintenance front, we completed the LED installations at sport field lighting at various athletic facilities. We installed pickleball courts and resurfaced all the tennis courts at the Costa Mesa Tennis Center. We addressed 1,500 tree-related calls. I mean, this is like 5 a day that we address on this one, just tree-related issues. Responded to 6,540 graffiti abatement requests, and we do respond and take care within 24 hours. We removed 7,500 pieces of bulky items in our city right-of-way. On the general services, this is the facilities and fleet. That's part of this one. We have secured local assistance grant funds, and we continued education on organics recycling. So that's a new program that we have launched. We have processed 680 construction demolition permits and 174 contractor self-haul permit applications. We looked into our fleet and developed a plan to modernize the city's fleet over the next few years. Substantially completed the training tower. I mean, you can see all 5 floors are now standing, and the work is progressing on that one. The Cafe Mesa the construction is substantially complete. And now we are working on a vendor. And then we initiated the facility needs and assessment study. With that, transfer back to finance.
Thank you, Director Sethuraman. I did want to highlight some of the finance department's achievements, and obviously we could not do it without all of the departments. It is all hands on deck in finance, and it's inclusive of all of the analysts in support of the leadership across the city. I do want to kind of say a couple of words that, finance isn't just what you see here. We do treasury, we do business license, we do cannabis tax, hotel tax, we audit the tennis center. We do a lot of financial transactions, and that's just named the Treasury Division, which is under Finance Officer Peter Dominich. Under the Procurement Office, under Kathleen Serrano, we actually review every single contract that gets signed. We ensure proper bid specs, proper procurement methods are being utilized. So we have 2 buyers and the officer there to make sure that everything is clear, clean, and goes through legal. We have the payroll office led by Finance Officer Anna Duluski, who has over 35 years with the city. She ensures all of our W-2s, 1099s, state, federal taxes are paid, ensures that all of her interactions with CalPERS are accurate and up to date. We have our finance manager, Anna Acosta, who's been taking the lead not only in helping the accounting side with year-end processes, but she's also taken a heavy lift with the new ERP system that we're probably going to be coming to pretty soon here. That was a really big lift, make sure that all of the departments were represented through the ERP process. Everybody, all the end users and IT had a seat at the table and be able to do questions and answers of all of the vendors to ensure the best system out there for the city of Costa Mesa. We also have Ash, who's our finance officer in accounting. He makes sure that all of the invoices are paid. We make sure all of the invoices are paid correctly, the funding is correct, it's posted correctly. He takes the lead on the audit, makes sure that the audit runs smoothly, efficiently, and on time. So I do not want to take away from those divisions that are still within finance, and they're very critical for all of the departments to make sure that they can continue their services as needed. Overall, though, finance has maintained and the city's AA lease and revenue bond credit rating, which means the city has AAA. It is the best rating for a municipality to have, especially in light that we're about to go out for a brand new bond. We implemented the new citywide master fee and charges schedule, and we've implemented that with the annual budget process where all the departments have an opportunity to review the fees. We also have incorporated a consultant who specializes in cost recovery, and he's been identifying some fees that we can increase by CPI that we'll be bringing forth with you on the public hearing night. We've exceeded our city council reserves by $5 million by 24-25. That's including COVID. So even during the COVID era, we were still adding some general fund year-end savings into our reserves, albeit small, but still in the black. We were able to identify $6 million in year-end savings to go towards our Lions Park Cafe, our training tower for the fire department, housing element envisioning plan, a golf course and tennis center, and bus shelter improvements. We strategically utilized ARPA to ensure that the fiscal impact of the pandemic was going to where it was most needed, which was our businesses, our residents. We did rental assistance. We did a project home key, tenant eviction protection. We allocated $2.4 million towards housing element envisioning plan through our year-end savings. We've received Budget and Finance Excellence Awards, two from GFOA and one from CSMFO. We completed the finance of 2 fire department apparatus. We initiated payments for 2 additional fire apparatus, 4 ambulances, the police armored rescue vehicle, and a police mobile command unit. All of those securing a very low interest rate right before the interest rate started going up for an average of about a 2% interest rate a year. And we also brought an additional 2 ambulances, which we were able to pay outright through some legal settlement. Next. Sorry, that kind of snuck in a little bit. For some of the financial achievements, we strategized ARPA. We eliminated multiple structural deficits that are contained in our multiple funds. Back in 2019, our self-insurance fund and our equipment replacement fund. We exceeded our City Council Reserve Fund policy of $55 million by $5 million, and we've ensured our rating stayed nice and strong. For our budget calendar, I do want to take a moment to thank the budget team that's led by Mark Koo for the budget manager. Paige and Allison, all 3 of them did a lot of work, worked a lot of hours with all of our departments to ensure that the proposed budget before you tonight is ready for your review. On April 9th, we went to 5-pack with the CIP budget review. April 10th, Parks, Arts, and Community Services Commission was able to review the CIP. On the 22nd of April, the City Council reviewed the CIP. The Planning Commission reviewed the CIP on May 12th. Before you tonight is the proposed operating budget study session. We are anticipating to come to you on June 3rd for the public hearing for the proposed operating. We'll be going tomorrow to 5-pack for the operating budget. If necessary, on June 10th, we can come back for the City Council for another bite of the apple, so to speak, and the 17th as well, if necessary. With that, our theme, as a reminder, we're focused, efficient, and resilient, and I can't express that enough, especially with all of our departments in this upcoming fiscal year. With that, we'll take questions.
Thank you. Let's hear from the public. Let's open it up to the public hearing. Anybody who wants to speak? It's a 2-minute, because this is a study session, so the public gets 2 minutes to speak. We'll start in the chambers, and then we'll go to people on Zoom. Yes, sir.
Hi, I just wanted to say thank you for a chance to just watch the thoughtful budgeting process and learned a lot. I wanted to ask a question on the CIP budget. I think it's 16 million or 28 with the fire station. I'm here with some of the dads advocating for Brentwood Park, and I didn't see that in the budget or anywhere mentioned in the CIP highlights. And so I'm curious if that is somewhere else that I didn't see in the presentation, or if it's still in the planning phase. But I was just curious kind of what's going on with the park. And as a reminder, it's a park that the equipment is kind of 25 years old. It's a bit embarrassing. I think we could do better in the community, and I think we have some momentum, so just wanted to check in. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir, you have the floor.
Mayor, I wanted to share my comments in Spanish. We did have some viewers on YouTube, so I wanted to share in Spanish, so then that way they can
Well,
hear.
why don't we, yeah, so we'll give you 2 more minutes, so it'll be 4 minutes instead of 2.
Okay, we have the interpreter here, so I can go ahead and read my statement in Spanish, and she'll interpret it at the end. Okay. Buenas noches, alcalde y concilio de Costa Mesa. De parte de Costa Mesa Unidos y Resilience OC, estamos presentando esta carta para reconocer y presentar nuestros logros para todos de Costa Mesa. Merecemos un derecho a permanecer en nuestras casas y en nuestras comunidades en la ciudad de Costa Mesa. Esta visión embarca una ciudad que es para todos. Somos madres, padres, hijos, familias y vecinos con raíces en Costa Mesa. Nuestro grupo de Costa Mesa Unidos tiene varios miembros que viven y representan todos los distritos de Costa Mesa, y varios de nosotros también tenemos niños y jóvenes que van a las escuelas que pertenecen a la ciudad. No nos pueden decir que no somos parte del tejido de la ciudad. Nosotros somos Costa Mesa. En temas del presupuesto, es importante para nuestro grupo de Costa Mesa Unidos que la ciudad continúe apoyando a los inquilinos a permanecer en la ciudad. La renta está muy alta y esto está impactando nuestra capacidad para vivir una vida digna. Aquí queremos permanecer en una ciudad que apoyamos y que somos parte. Pláticas políticas y anuncios nacionales asustan a muchos de nosotros, incluyendo a los niños y los jóvenes. Rumores y arrestos de parte de migración pasa la voz rápida en Costa Mesa. La asistencia de los niños en las escuelas ha bajado. Incluso también tiendas locales se han visto vacías porque familias están tan asustadas de salir de sus casas. Queremos regresar a un momento de paz, donde nos sentimos en comunidad en la comunidad. Esta es nuestra visión, un derecho a permanecer en nuestras casas y nuestras comunidades. Esperemos que ustedes también estén de acuerdo con esta visión y tomen sus decisiones basado en eso. Gracias.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council of Costa Mesa. On behalf of Costa Mesa Unidos and Resilience OC, we are presenting this letter to recognize and present some of our achievements for everyone in Costa Mesa. We deserve the right to remain in our homes and in our communities in the city of Costa Mesa. This vision encompasses a city that is for everyone. We are mothers, fathers, children, families, and neighbors with roots in Costa Mesa. Our group of Costa Mesa Unidos has several members who live and represent all of the districts, and a lot of us also have children and young children who go to schools that belong to the city. You cannot tell us that we are not part of the network of the city. We are Costa Mesa. In regards to the budget, it's important that our group, Costa Mesa Unidos, and that the city continues supporting the renters to remain in the city. Rents are very high, and this is creating an impact in the quality of our lives in order to live a dignified life. We want to remain in the city that we support and that we belong to, that we are part of. Political talks and national announcements create fear among a lot of us, including the children and youth. Rumors of arrests from immigration spread like wildfire in Costa Mesa. The attendance of children at the schools has decreased. In fact, some of the local stores have also seen some reductions. They are empty because families are afraid of going out of their homes. We want to go back to a time of peace where we feel that we are a community in the community.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor.
Excuse me. I just need to turn on your mic. Should be on. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Christian Lopez with Resilience OC, and I work alongside the community-based group Costa Mesa Unidos. I want to start off by thanking both city staff and city council members for improvements in communication and working with the Latino community here in the city of Costa Mesa. Our organization, Resilience OC, grounds our work in making sure those most vulnerable or marginalized have a seat at the table where their voices and needs are heard and addressed, especially during the budget passing process, and that is why I'm here today. This year's budget identifies a number of goals that we look forward to the city making a real commitment to. Goal 1A states enhance the communications and engagement plan to support the public's health, safety, and quality of life. Goal 1F is to identify, develop, and implement a measurement tool to determine the effectiveness of city's communications. Part of enhancing the community engagement here in the city of Costa Mesa must include a commitment to interpretation services and providing Spanish language material. As identified in the budget, there has been an increase in the number of contacts for bilingual assistance at public meetings. And citywide, 29% of the city's residents list Spanish as their primary language spoken at home. Another goal that we encourage the city to pursue is Goal 23, providing advanced meeting agenda noticing. Meaningful engagement requires preparation time for the public, and publishing the agenda further out increases community participation. Some other identified goals we look forward to seeing real commitment to are diversify, stabilize, and increase housing to reflect community needs.
Excuse me, that's it. Anybody else from the chambers wish to speak? Okay, what about Zoom?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we'll close public comment. Oh, sorry, is there somebody?
Yes.
Are there numerous speakers?
Angeli, please.
Angeli, you have the floor.
Hello there. Good afternoon. Angeli Andrade, District 4 community resident. I wanted to make a call to action for an opportunity to invest in park development on the west side of Costa Mesa. We got to take a peek at the CIP projects, and it looks like there's something way out in the future, but not in the upcoming years. And as far as from my experience of collaborating with the Parks Department, they need investments annually in order to be able to research, explore, and potentially develop potential green spaces in the community. Without annual investment, there is no active steps of actively looking at opportunities to develop green spaces, to bring greater equity for the residential ratio to green space allotment in the west side of Costa Mesa. So my call is to please consider allocating some funds to allow the department to initiate exploring opportunities for green space development. Thank you.
Next speaker is Roger, please.
Roger, you have the floor.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Well, my name is Fisher Dadarin. Sorry, I'm calling from my institution's Zoom, but I serve as the vice chair of the Arts Commission. I first want to thank staff for presenting the commission's recommendations that we had made at our most recent meeting tonight, and for the ongoing support of the arts in Costa Mesa. At last week's council meeting, Mayor Pro Tem Chavez posed what I think is a fair question. What is the purpose of the Arts Commission? As a resident of his district, I agree. I think that's a question worth answering and reflecting upon. I believe that the commission should lead the creation of a new focused arts master plan, not a consultant-led process, but a commission-led one, built in partnership with staff and supported by outside expertise where needed. I think that's how we show purpose, by defining what it means to be the city of the arts over the next decade and leading that vision. The mural initiative that was mentioned earlier is one step toward that vision. As was stated, the commission voted to repurpose what is $170,000 in unspent funds to launch a bold new program that brings together public investment, nonprofit leadership, and local businesses willing to host mural sites. I've already had early interest from the Historical Society, and I'd like to invite you all to imagine what this could mean for our community. Businesses beautifying their buildings, local artists creating visible work, in residents encountering public art across their neighborhoods. I think it's an amazing way to tell Costa Mesa's story through art that people can actually see and take pride in. Finally, I also want to encourage the council to revisit how we interpret the 0.5% of cannabis tax revenue already set aside for implementing the Cultural Arts Master Plan. One of the plan's core goals is to expand public art. We've already even commissioned a report from the staff and considered by the commission exploring ways to fund public art. But instead of creating new taxes or fees for developers, why don't we start with an already voter-approved stream that we have? The current interpretation of the ordinance folds the revenue stream into overhead, but the ordinance simply states the implementation of the master plan. I think this could just as well mean an established, dedicated public art fund that delivers lasting, tangible value to the community.
Hey, excuse me,
Thank you all for your time.
Commissioner, there was a little bit of an issue with the timing, but you're about 15 minutes over your time. Sorry, 15 seconds. 15 seconds. And that was a mistake on my part. It didn't seem like 15 minutes. Anybody else on Zoom?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, good. Let's close public comment. Now, in terms of this next section, let's make sure that, council members get a chance to ask all their questions, make all their statements, anything they want to make. Generally speaking, we'll go one council member at a time. But if other council members want to follow up on something and the council member with the floor is open to that, that's fine. I don't want to micromanage it. But let's make sure everybody has their questions answered and their statements made, and then, we'll adjourn. So does any council member wish to be heard? Councilmember Gamero, Lauren, a little casual. Lauren, you have the floor.
Thank you, John. Well, first of all, I want to start off with, I was very impressed this evening with the presentation that was given by all the directors regarding what's going on in the city and regarding staff. Probably one of the best presentations yet, so I just want to thank everybody personally. They did a wonderful job, and I was thoroughly impressed. I do have a few questions I'd like to ask about. I guess regarding Jack Hammett, we were told that there's some negotiations going on for Jack Hammett. I was curious who's involved with those negotiations, and if it's possible, who are we in negotiations with? Is the second part something that can be answered? I'm not sure, but I would like to know who's in negotiations regarding Jack Hammett.
Mayor, Councilmember Gameros, I'd be more than happy to answer that question. The leading negotiator is the city manager's office, but it's comprised of a team of our Parks and Community Services Department, our Public Works team, and both our fire and police departments as well. We will be presenting to you at the upcoming council meeting an item to approve, recommending approval of the use of Jack Hammett to host the UCLA Bruins football team. So that will be coming forth.
And if, Mr. Mayor, if I could add, the city attorney's office
Yes.
has been involved in that process.
Sorry, I forgot to mention you, Kim, but yes, city attorney has also been involved.
Mayor met with him too.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were going to say something. I was waiting. So I guess the question then is, if we're going to utilize the Bruins for negotiations on the utilization of Jack Hammett Field, would there be a conflict with the NFL team using it as well?
At this moment, the city is still engaged in an agreement with the Los Angeles Chargers team. However, we have been notified that they will not be using the Jack Hammett Sports Complex for this year's training camp. So we would follow the same procedure that we did last year when we entered into a one-year agreement with the Raiders team, with the UCLA Bruins.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, the second thing in regards to Jay, I heard that he's involved with DGS, DDS, Cal, OES regarding the FDC site development. I was wondering, obviously not tonight, but if we can get an update as to where we're at with that and where that's going, that would be great. Let's see here. Oh, is it my understanding that Brenda Green is the one who puts the agenda together? Is that correct? I was wondering what kind of lead time does Brenda get to put together our council agenda, because I know there's been an ask in the past if we could get it a little bit earlier, and I'm wondering if that's something that we can look into, and if it is, what kind of lead time her office would need to put that together, I guess uninterrupted. I don't know who can answer that, but I'm just kind of shooting it out there.
Thank you, Councilmember Gameros. We have been working hard, striving to ensure that the council gets their agendas almost 1 week prior to the city council meeting. So we've been getting the agendas out to the city council the Wednesday before the meetings, and then we release to the public on Thursday. There are times when the volume of information that's associated with the agenda item or the study session item is such that it takes us a little longer to collate and print and distribute, but that is the target. Our goal is Wednesday to City Council and Thursday distribution to the public.
Okay, thank you. Let me see here. I have a few things. Okay, I just want to take a moment and thank Carrie. I know that you're doing a lot of work with the economic services, and as director, I know you're handling an ADU program, housing apps, and online permitting process. I know you've done hundreds of ADUs, so I just want to thank you. It seems like that's going really well, and I'm happy to see that that's working out. Last but not least, I do have a question for the Chief of Police. On May 7th, I received an email regarding organized retail theft. I have never seen that before to my knowledge, and I was wondering if you could elaborate to us on that, and if that's something that we could be enlightened on maybe on a more regular basis.
Thank you, Councilmember Gameros. Yes, I did provide an annual organized retail theft report from the state of California. Actually, our team, we have two very talented crime analysts that work in the police department that collate information. The organized retail theft information, I think, comes quarterly, but there is a monthly report that our crime analysts produce, and I present to the city manager's office on a monthly basis that is releasable to the public.
Would we be able to get that released to the council in the same format you did before, I guess monthly? Is that something that's possible?
It is possible. It lags by about a month by the time they collate the crime data. It's not just crime data, it's traffic collisions and quite a bit more data. Our booking information breaks it down by different categories of people arrested and so forth.
That would be great. I would love to see something like that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
In closing, I would just like to take a moment once again. I'd like to thank Constituent Services. To list everybody by name would take a long time, but I just want to thank everybody who's helping us out and helping me out almost on a daily basis. And I do want to just take a moment and thank Carol for a wonderful presentation you gave tonight. It was really good, well thought out. You did a great job. Thank you for helping us balance the budget through 2026. I know you worked real hard on it. That's all I have, John. Thank you.
Okay, do any other council members, sorry, Jeff, do you wish to?
Sure. Thank you, John. I'm going to call you John. Thank you, John. Thank you, staff. That was quite the report. I just wanted to start out, my man Fisher Dudarian called in tonight, Commissioner for the Arts. I have had an arts education. It mostly started because of the interest from my constituents that have contacted me a lot about art and not seeing art. And I know there's been a lot of work done on the art front, but I think there is a case to be made for a public art fund. And what I'm not asking, I don't think, and Fisher, I'm going to let him speak through the commission on this in a more educated way. But I don't think we're looking for more money. We're looking for a different way to allocate the money. And when I looked at the municipal code, especially the not the municipal code, but the master plan, the goal number 2, expanding public art throughout the city, and that's the second goal of the Arts Master Plan. And so I think Fisher has some great ideas. I'm looking forward to the Arts Commission presenting their ideas to us at the council, so then we can make a decision on how things will go. So thank you, Fisher, for calling in. Secondly, you know what? Fire and police, that was my favorite part of the whole thing. I mean, and I'm not just loving on fire and police because I love fire and police, but I really like the report. And the reason is there's a lot of detail in there about what you guys are doing. Even Stefano threw in some gaps in there. Chief, I learned something, Chief Lawrence, that we reduced crime, what was the overall, 11%, I think, overall. Man, that's what it's all about. And, you know, I would love, and I know you guys are going to sit there and go, God, why is he saying this? But maybe a quarterly or, you know, some sort of a regular report on what you guys, crime data. I know it's a big ask, but when I was campaigning a couple of years ago, crime, a lot has happened in the positive since then, and my constituents ask about it. I'd love to be able to brag. I'd love to be able to promote. I always do anyway, but I'd love to have some data to be able to support you guys. And fire too, I'm not going to ask Chief to give me all 13,000 calls you guys go out on, but I love the texts we get on the council from the fire chief producing pictures and whatnot. It's important stuff for the city. And I don't know how that would look, but I'd love to see some sort of kind of general overview, just to be able to understand and articulate to the constituents the job you guys are doing. And lastly, I hate to pick on this. I thought at one point when we were asking, finance always does such a good job, but I thought we asked, maybe it was Bewley, I can't remember, one of us, before we asked to see what, I saw and maybe I missed this, I saw the contracts that you all thought that need to stay, which I agree. But also, I think we asked to see all the different consultant contracts that cost the city a lot of money and where they're going to. Not saying we're going to try and necessarily nix them, but I know it's a big expense. And if I missed it, I'm sorry. But I think maybe it was even Mayor who asked about that. I can't remember. But I would like to see that because I know it's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So in the next bite of the apple, I'd love to be able to take a peek at that. Other than that, great job, staff. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, and just so on that point, to follow up, I noticed that too, Jeff, and it might have been a miscommunication on my part. I think I mentioned outsourced services, and a lot of those items pertain to things that were outsourced. But what I meant to ask for, and like I say, I probably didn't ask for it very clearly, is like all of the consulting context. Let me give you an example. DUDEC for the zoning. I think that's $1.8 million. The facilities master plan consultant, just all of them. And as Jeff said, doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to ask that they be cut, but it's informational because right now they're grouped into one or more of the line items, and they're not isolated. And I think it would be interesting, at least for my part, I'm interested to see how much we spend on contracts of that nature.
Mr. Mayor, can I just inquire, because I know we do a lot of these. We have a lot of contracts that are with outside firms that provide services that are actually paid for by people who want that service at perhaps an expedited timeline. So do you want all of those as well, even though they're theoretically revenue neutral, or do you just want the ones? I'm just trying to get clarity for staff's sake here.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure I understand the question, but I don't have to because we'll just talk about it another time on the telephone. Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else wish to be heard? Andrea?
Thank you. Can we go to slide 16, please? Of the original presentation, so all the way back. So can I understand, are these current positions, is there currently someone sitting in that community outreach position in the city manager's office and we are going to cut that position? Is that what's being recommended?
No, all the positions that are being recommended are currently vacant.
Okay. Can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, it took a while to load on my screen. The chief of code enforcement, do we not currently have a senior code enforcement official in that role?
My understanding is that role is currently vacant. The position that was filled was promoted.
I also recall that we had specifically set aside code enforcement positions as it related to cannabis. Are any of these positions that were opened or added to the budget specifically for cannabis? I know we added some PD positions, but I thought we had also added code enforcement positions that were specific to cannabis.
We did add one more code enforcement officer specific to cannabis, correct?
And so now we're cutting that person effectively.
The code enforcement officers, they do all sorts of code enforcement, not just cannabis. So essentially, the code enforcement officers would still continue to do cannabis, as well as there's a business license inspector currently in the finance department who has also been out there and taking over some of the duties.
Were there any other positions contemplated that weren't code enforcement?
Not that I'm aware of.
In other words, do we have any other options, or is this sort of what this is the recommendation?
This is the recommendation. We do have a list of vacancies that our HR manager will be presenting at the public hearing notice. There's a new state law that requires us to do so, and we'll be able to provide that information, as well as positions that may be vacant, but they're currently being filled, so essentially not available.
Okay. And to be clear, we're not eliminating any positions that staff are currently hired in.
Correct. All these positions are vacant.
Okay.
Andrea, can I do a follow-up if you're moving off of that topic?
It's fine with me.
And just to clarify that, because it was an area I was going to question, but since you were there already, I thought I'd just jump in. So on slide 16, 17, these are either unfilled positions that are either being eliminated or frozen, as you term it, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Are there any other position? Does this comprise the entire universe of unfilled positions that we have right now, other than law enforcement and fire?
No. As I mentioned, the HR manager, Costa Mesa, will be coming forth during the public hearing notice in June, and will be providing the current vacant report, as well as identifying those vacant positions that are currently being filled. So even though they may be on the report as vacant, technically they would not be.
Okay. Then I would just request that as part of that presentation, if you could highlight on that presentation somehow these ones that are in your slide 16, 17 that are recommended for either elimination or freezing, as you call it, so that we know which ones you guys have kind of identified as the most appropriate, and then we'll see the other ones that are there. So for ease of my interpretation. Okay, thank you. I apologize, Andrea. Go ahead.
No worries. For the city clerk, the decrease in an election budget, are we just not using all the funds that we've had allocated, or is something else fundamentally changed?
That's a allocation every other year. So next year, you'll see an increase of 140,000, and then the following year, a decrease of 140,000.
Okay, so maybe I'm misunderstanding the bullet. So 2026, there will be an election.
But it will be in the fiscal year 26-27.
Got it, okay.
So we will be bringing forth that budget in the following fiscal year.
Okay, so it's a yes, okay, that makes sense. Thank you. Okay, I'd like to understand cannabis taxes a little bit better. So if I'm on attachment 2, page 1, all funds, revenues, and sources of funds, special revenue funds under the general fund, Measure Q, business tax, $242,000 under Fund 130 for the Cultural Arts Master Plan, and under the First Time Homebuyer Program, another $242 from cannabis Measure X taxes. Where are the, I mean, I'm seeing it in the budget book, but where are the rest of the cannabis taxes? I mean, obviously not all of it's going to cultural arts or first-time home buyers, so where that's just in special revenue funds. Where else would I find it here?
So cannabis taxes falls into 3 different funding sources. The general fund takes 6% of the cannabis Q, and it takes 100% of the Measure X. The Arts and Cultural Master Plan takes 0.5% of Measure Q, and the home buyers takes another 0.5% for the total of 7%.
So then if I go to Fund 101 in Attachment 3, page 1, the Measure Q business tax at $2.9 million for FY25-26, does that include the Cultural Arts Master Plan and the First Time Home Buyer Program? No, it doesn't, because those are in separate funds.
Correct.
Okay. So when somewhere in your presentation, it said 3.6 million for cannabis tax collection, but I was trying to do the math on that. It's more than 3.6 because it would be the Fund 101 amounts plus Fund 130 and 140, right?
That's correct. So we identified the general fund cannabis revenue source.
Got it. Okay, that's helpful. On that, so fiscal year 2023 to 24, we got 2.4 million in Measure Q business taxes. The following year, it was 2.8 million, so it was a 20% increase. And we're projecting only 2.9 in FY 25-26, which is only a 2% increase. So that seems like a massive slowdown, even though we've got a lot more cannabis.
So we are seeing essentially a leveling off of sorts of the cannabis Measure Q taxes overall, which is why we're not recommending a bigger increase. Keep in mind too, back in 23-24, they're all starting to come on board. So we're starting to see the full year. Now we've seen the full year. Even though there are some new businesses coming in, it's not bringing in as much bottom line as we saw in the beginning.
So weird, we added more, but we're not getting more taxes.
Bottom line, correct.
So it's almost like there's a threshold at which no matter how much more cannabis you add, the tax revenue caps out, is that right?
That is correct.
How many businesses are open right now?
I believe 30, Carrie? How many do you have?
Excuse me, why don't you come to the microphone?
She needs to look it up first.
Yeah, whenever you're ready. It's just so the public can hear.
I mean, while you do that, Carrie, I'll move on to something else and come back to this. So moving to attachment 4, under the maintenance and operations account under legal, we're currently operating at 2.88 million for all of our combined legal fees. If I understand, just the Jones and Mayer component of that is 1.12 million, correct?
That's correct.
So the rest of that, the delta between the 2.8 and the 1.12 are other legal services that we have on board?
That is correct. Keep in mind as well that in the general fund, we have also set aside $1.5 million towards sober living cases, litigation cases that was done multiple years ago that help support some of those legals, as well as our self-insurance fund also has some legal costs, not encompassing the Jones and Mayer contract.
Nevertheless, that's a pretty significant jump. We've gone from 1.9 million in FY23 to 2.9 million in FY25. It's $1 million in 2 years.
Correct.
Is that mostly because of sober living related expenses?
No, it's basically all litigation, encompassing other litigation. Sober living has not gone up that much. I think we're seeing about, I'd like to say maybe 400,000, I think, last year, this current year.
Okay.
I'd have to look into the details.
When was the last time we got any comparative information on whether our 1.1 million in legal fees to Jones Mayer is sort of in keeping with the market?
I have not done that in a while, but I could definitely take a lead if you'd like me to.
Yeah, it'd be helpful to understand where we stand relative to other cities. I'm also concerned about just the fact that, I mean, we can't add $1 million to that budget every 2 years. Carrie, sorry to leave you hanging. How many cannabis dispensaries are open right now?
There are, thank you, Councilmember Mar, there are 13 open cannabis storefronts at the moment. There's one more that's been approved, and I believe their doors are opening momentarily, so I would count 14.
If you had to guess, how many would be open at the end of next year, this time next year?
I mean, it was hard for me. I mean, I can tell you there are 26 in total that are approved, and of those, there's 13, or there's 14 that's considered open, so of those, there's 12 more. And I would say somewhere between 6 and 8 are in the building permit or improvement process, so they could be expected to open if they complete that. So that means 6 to 8 plus, so it'd be about 22. So
okay.
Yeah, 22 is my forecast.
So we're going to go from, sorry, you said 13 are open now, and we're going to.
I would 14 are, well, 14, count 14 open now.
Okay.
I'm guesstimate about 6 to 8 that might complete construction within by the end of the year. So that's about 22.
So a 50% increase in the number of dispensaries with a commensurate 2% increase in taxes. Is that right?
Sorry.
A 50% increase in the number of dispensaries that we're going to open in the next year and a 2% increase in the amount of taxes. Is that right?
That is correct. At this moment, we are not anticipating the revenues to go up much higher. What we've been noticing, even with the increases of dispensaries, that the dollars aren't coming up higher. They're kind of essentially realigning of sorts between the stores.
Yeah, because there's, okay, never mind. I mean, I'll just use the podium. Because there's a maximum amount of cannabis that the citizens of Costa Mesa and the surrounding area could possibly consume, and we've hit that maximum, is my guess. All right. Raja, on the skate park, I see no funding budgeted this year, 25, 26. 40,000 in the following year, but I think that's okay because we're using grant funding, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and then the 160K you've got in out years, is that just maintenance or what do we have? There's something in 2028.
So, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Mar, that funding is for rehabilitation of the parking lot.
Got it. Okay, excellent, good. I just wanted to double check that because I will have lots of angry constituents if we do not get that thing moving. So excellent. Look, I'm incredibly concerned about cutting code enforcement. I'll be honest, I looked through the budget and there's really nothing else I'd prefer to cut either. None of it is good, but I do get incredibly worried at 22 dispensaries open, the fact that we specifically added code enforcement because of our concerns around those dispensaries, even more so once they're open, right? It's less of a concern when they're not open, and then when we finally do get them open, that's when we need the code enforcement officers. So my strong preference would be to reevaluate this at mid-year, especially once 6 months into the budget happens and we can see where we are with sales tax and TOT and some of these other revenue sources. I would like to think that we could collect more cannabis tax, but that might be a hope and a wish. Nevertheless, I think we were very explicit about recognizing that that part of our business community needs regular enforcement, and so to eliminate those positions gives me great concern. I will get off my soapbox. This was an incredible job, right? We kind of glossed over the part at the beginning about just like the incredible amount of uncertainty that is happening right now. You were trying to manage what is, basically an unknown sales tax amount number, TOT. We have no idea if people are going to be traveling for business. I've been told to travel less for business, right? We have no idea where some of these numbers are going to land, and so I think you've put together a conservative budget that hits all the marks, that still keeps the city functioning. You'll notice for the public, we have cut. We're not cutting recreation positions. We're not cutting some of our really critical city services. We're not touching public safety in any way, and so to navigate these uncertain times and still not touch any of those things is an incredible feat. So thank you very much for what you have done. Also, I just want to say for the city manager's office in particular, thank you for the summary of all of the excellent work that you are doing. I think if you just watched these council meetings, you would not have any sense that all of that happens in the background when, honestly, people aren't always paying attention, but you are making things happen. So thank you for that. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Yes, Mike.
Sure, I have a few questions here, and kudos as well to everybody. Again, this is my first time through the budgeting process, and you see the budget, you see the extent of the money that we have here to spend through federal grants and this special fund and that special fund, and to see the presentations tonight from all the various departments, and it makes it tangible where everything's being spent and what's being done and what goes into running this city. So kudos to everybody for the presentations. It was excellent for me, and I appreciate all the work that you put into it, staff. That being said, again, just some questions so I can understand a few things. Mine come from, in preparation for tonight, I'd kind of gone through the agenda notes, the blue insert that we get, and I need to understand the transfers out. I'm looking at page 4 of that. where I see that 1.2, and this was transfers out from the general fund, total 2.8. Does that mean funds that would be spent or had previously been spent the previous year, they're not intended to be spent this year? Or if somebody can explain transfers out in layman's terms for me.
So the $2.8 million transfer out of the general fund is essentially the 1.5% of general fund revenue going towards the IT replacement fund to help fund the IT infrastructure.
Okay, so general fund, funds are coming out of the general fund and being moved into to cover the expenditures for IT.
Correct.
Okay. And then it's my understanding in looking at this budget that in order to bring it within budget and compliant and have it balanced, you have gone ahead and adopted the waiver of the 5% can. Did I read that correctly?
So we have included the execution of the emergency portion of the CAN to eliminate for this 1 year the transfer from general fund into the 401 capital fund. However, we are recommending to utilize $2.2 million of the capital fund balance that's available to help with the maintenance of effort requirement.
And if I can keep track of all the buckets and all the funds and everything that we're here talking about tonight, when you say you're going to allocate 2 point whatever from the general fund back to where you were going to expend it right now, is that your way of saying that you're going to use a portion of the 5% can that you're moving into the shortfall that we're going to have, but it's still going to be allocated to certain CIP projects?
No, so what ended up happening is we've been transferring over the past few years 5% of the general fund revenues towards the capital. We've also transferred over 5% of the ARPA that we received because the ARPA was technically utilized to provide a general fund revenue offset because of the losses that the city experienced during COVID. We were able to allocate 5% of that. That has grown some fund balance dollars in the 401 fund that we're asking now to allocate in 25-26 in lieu of a general fund contribution.
I think I follow you. So there was kind of a surplus, for lack of a better term, in the 401 fund that you're referring to, and you'll use that surplus to fill the hole created by this waiver of the can.
Correct.
I can follow you. I just got to go slow there. Okay. I'm looking at page 8, where we go the 25-26 general fund, and this is 8 again of the agenda insert, and it's the 25-26 general fund budget expenditure highlights, and I see the continuation of the 4.3 million vacancy factor. Is that basically what I would call like the placeholders for the unfilled positions that Councilmember Andrea and myself were querying on?
So that vacancy attrition factor actually occurred in fiscal year 19-20, where there was a percentage of vacancies that was
1920?
Yeah, 19-20.
Okay. Okay.
Fiscal year 19-20.
Okay. Okay.
2019-2020. Adopted budget that essentially set aside assumed vacancies based on a vacancy that's normally occurs. For example, in the police department, there's a normal turnaround that occurs that was calculated and then placed into the department's budget.
Right, and I understand, so that's the backstory, but jump ahead to 2025. Practically what it means is there's 4.3 million in unfilled positions.
Vacant, correct.
Correct. And again, we've been around this track, but there will be a presentation, and we'll see those that are vacant, but we're probably aggressively seeking to fill them, law enforcement, fire, whatnot. And then there's other ones. There's a whole spectrum, I would imagine.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have. Thanks.
Any other council members? Arliss?
Yeah, thank you. I'll start by also expressing appreciation for the presentation. It's always, I sort of chuckle myself up here listening to the list of activities and accomplishments throughout the year, because it's a sort of a humbling reminder of how much work happens at the city that isn't in front of us on a regular basis. And I really appreciate the reminder. I agree with the comment made about I think it's very helpful for the broader community to be aware of that work. I am going to take some time to talk about it, just making notes through each department. And part of that because I feel an incredible amount of pride, and I hope that you all feel an incredible amount of pride associated with that work that is happening here at City Hall. And I'll start with the city manager's office. I touched on some of this in my comments at the last meeting, but the increase in the investment in the community outreach and the community engagement, the communication that is coming out of that office in multiple languages, in multiple modes, thinking about how different generations receive and share information, thinking about how different communities receive and share information. My reflections go back to 6 years ago, and just the incredible amount of progress, not just in the day-to-day work, but I see it in the conversations that I have with community members. So I just wanted to highlight that part of the work. It's just an incredible team. And I really appreciate, really appreciate that work. I think it's been absolutely transformational and exactly what this council asked for in setting the city's mission and values. On the HR side, another one of our core goals, recruitment and retention, it was great to be reminded of the training and mentoring programs that have been built. I recall, again, 6 years ago, it was a budget of 0 for training of city staff. I was shocked when I learned that. And so I was really happy to see that raised again. Again, something that we're not involved with on a regular basis. From what I understand, great communication with our associations, especially through COVID, really great partnerships with the city. And I thank the HR team for a lot of investment in that work. The city clerk's office, we see you here. I was stunned by the numbers that you're sharing there. I can't recall off the top of my head, but I think it was more than 1,000 PRAs. Just wow, and thank you for doing that important work. On the planning side, I think this is a general theme, but the definition, or a perfect example of building a plane while we fly it. I mean, the tools that our planning department had 6 years ago, I think everything was on paper. So, and there was a huge surge, a huge surge in development activity, small scale development activity through COVID. I recall being really surprised by those numbers. So again, to see, to know that we're literally building the plane while we're trying to fly it, while council's saying step on the accelerator and do more, while we're trying to fill positions. 24,000 inspections per day was one of the numbers that stood out to me. Per day, 24,000 per year, which is that's 100 a day, about. Incredible. I don't even know how that actually happens. I'm curious about it. I won't ask you to explain it now. But I think those numbers are stunning. And again, that's stuff that we don't see. So thank you for sharing those numbers. As I think everyone in this room knows, this is an area that's really important to all of our work. We've put a lot of attention into hiring good people. I think we've hired some great people here. I want to make sure that this department gets the resources for an incredible amount of work. I'll come back to that because I know we have some new vacancies in that area. Fire and rescue, always great to see the numbers, gives a lot of perspective on that activity. I appreciate the annual reports, and I'll definitely go through that. For police as well, I appreciate, as Jeff mentioned, the reductions in crime across the board. I appreciate you sharing that. I know that's definitely a collaborative effort, and absolutely what we want to see. I wanted to call out, you didn't mention this, but I wanted to call out the collaboration on the bike ordinance. I thought that was a really nice partnership with the transportation team on, and then of course also the collaboration with Human Options. So thank you for that. IT, again, 6 years ago, like totally outdated systems, like unsupported software. I'm glad we're at the tail end of the IT strategic plan, or I guess moving into phase 2 of the IT strategic plan. So thank you for your leadership on that and the whole team there. Parks and Community Services, I could talk for a day on this, I won't, but I do want to call out the aquatics program, the like get every third grader to swim program and that partnership with Newport Mesa. That was something that was a pre-COVID conversation that Brian, when you joined, you just jumped right into, and I saw an article on that recently. And again, that's transformational work. Kids learning how to swim is life-saving work. So thank you for that. Public Works, another thing we could talk about for days. Excellent work, always. Really good team of managers, some really good hires that year. Appreciate all of that work so much. I still think Public Work needs a hyped team. I won't ask for that in this budget, but I'm gonna throw it out all the time. Public Works needs its own PR hype team for all of that incredible work. And then Finance, Carol, you're involved in everything. You help fund everything. Thank you for mentioning all of the things that we don't see as well, all of the day-to-day work. It's so easy for us to forget that because we're just talking about the budget cycles. Really, really appreciate your attention to detail and making sure that we can fund everything we want to do. I know the past few years have been, I think, a lot more fun because we've had surpluses, but I really appreciate you calling out quickly when it's not always surplus. So thank you all. I wanted to take time. I know we try to have shorter study sessions, but I really wanted to take time to just acknowledge the incredible work by the team throughout the year. And I know that's been through great partnerships from the city manager's office all the way across City Hall. So on the budget, I really like the theme. Thank you for that. I think it's really helpful to have the theme, and I like it. I think it's very fitting. I really appreciate the thoughtful consideration given our economic downturn and lots of uncertainty ahead. I appreciate the caution built into this budget, and I support being cautious. I appreciate that the budget was developed to not use reserves. We don't know what's ahead, and I'd like to have a little bit of a buffer for mid-year check-in or even after the first quarter check-in, because things could be much better, which great, we'll be in that fund space again, or things could be much worse than we're expecting. So I really appreciate the cautious approach. And I just wanted to call out, a lot of the projects in our CIP are funded by grants. So I want to appreciate all of the staff involved in those grants. I know it's effort to go after those grants. It's the government relations team to staff who are identifying grant opportunities and pursuing those. And I appreciate that we are able to do so many projects based on those grant funds. This time next year, another reason I support the caution and I support sort of a pause on, it's not a total pause, but a reduction in new projects. Raja, we're reducing the number of new projects in this proposed budget. Do you expect to have downtime this year based on that? No, I didn't think so. You're still going to be very, very, very busy. Yes. Okay. So, and I appreciate the pause or the again reduction in new projects. One, for caution, given the amount of uncertainty ahead. Also, because this time next year, as I understand, we're going to have recommendations from the citywide facilities assessment, citywide parks assessment. We're going to have a framework that the Parks and Community Services Commission is developing in terms of recommendations on prioritizing parks and community services investments. And I think that'll, or that should provide a much more informed approach to planning CIPs going forward versus a sort of an ad hoc approach that we've had in the past. And so just another reason that I appreciate sort of the slowdown this year. Okay, I do have some questions. First, staying at a high level, I want to make sure that I have a good understanding of the context of our estimated revenue values. So you had some information on different slides, the basis for the estimated revenue. One of the things I pulled out was we're expecting a drop in discretionary spending, expecting a drop in travel. We have an estimated sales tax number. All of these things have a big impact on our revenue. Can you put that in the context of like other economic downturn times? Like how does that compare to 2008, 2009? And how much of that, I think it was mentioned, there's a lag here, right? So are these like pre-tariff estimates, just whatever information off the top of your head? And this is something I'm going to want to understand a little bit better.
I'm glad you brought that up, Councilmember Reynolds. We have been looking at the city's revenues and how it essentially talks to us since 2002. So we have been looking at when the city actually does a dip. Essentially, sales tax is the largest hit. It does take about 2 years for the sales tax to come back, but it does come back. So we are seeing essentially kind of the same percentage-wise into this current fiscal year. We are anticipating obviously a larger hit on the sales tax based on the actual sales tax receipt that we're seeing, but we're also trying to be cautious and making sure that we're taking it down a little bit more because these tariffs are definitely going to be doing some sales tax adjustments, right? We're seeing on the sales tax side, general merchandise down, autos down. So we're hoping that will come back, but based on historical information, it's probably going to take about a year or two to come back from a normal recession. Now, keep in mind that what we're seeing right now is not a normal recession. It's essentially a tariff war, so to speak, which we haven't had, at least in my professional career. So we'll see how that turns out.
Okay, so lots of uncertainty ahead.
Yes.
Is what I'm pulling from that. Okay. But 3 months from now, obviously each month from now, we'll have a little bit more information. Okay.
Correct, and then keep in mind too, this weekend, on Monday, United States and China did do a 90-day pause on the tariffs.
Right.
And the market reacted very well. I think we're trying to be cautious, but at the same time realizing there's going to be ups and downs.
Yeah. Okay. And then, so I think it's 2 days from now that we're going to see at least the first pass at the state budget. What is the potential impact in terms of direct revenue to the city? I wanted to get a sense for that. I don't think there's a big direct impact. Do we receive funds directly from the state that?
We do receive state grants.
Grants.
Yes, we do receive state grants, and then we also do go after reimbursable costs. So when the state imposes upon a local government, we are allowed to go after the costs that the city incurs for those mandates. So we do have actually a consultant on staff that will run the numbers and will work with the state for us to get reimbursed. It's not a big dollar amount, but we do go after a little bit of that. The biggest impact from the state really is going to be essentially whether it's a grant or, for lack of a better word, if they found a loophole around the Proposition 1A, which happened under Governor Schwarzenegger, which essentially protected right, local revenues from the state coming back to us.
Got it. Okay. Well, it'd be good to have some follow-up on that. We'll know more, of course, in 2 days. I want to understand that impact. And then none of the grants that we have right now, so any grants we have right now from the state are secured, right? And I'm assuming we don't have assumptions about new grants coming in. It's just the normal reimbursable costs.
Correct.
Okay. So overall, small direct impact unless some of these loopholes are used.
Correct. Or, there's also that possibility some of the grants that the state receives funnels down to us. Right. But as far as we know right now.
We talked about, yeah. Okay, those are small dollars in terms of the overall pie.
Correct.
Okay. So is it fair to be not too concerned about that?
At this moment in time, I'm not too concerned about that. Obviously, things can change, but from what we're hearing is the courts has implemented the statute that if the grants were already promised, they cannot be clawed back.
Yeah. Okay. That's helpful. Thank you. Can we go to slide 37? This is the one with the contracts. I just wanted to make two notes here. And I know this was presented as like contracts you really hope we don't touch. I wanted to call out, several council members have mentioned the street sweeping contract. This is about $700,000 a year. Given the comments previously made about at least observations where it seems like it's less effective because of parking. I'd like to hear, what we've thought about, or if there are any ideas in terms of making sure that those funds are more effectively utilized. I could throw out ideas. I don't know the first thing about street sweeping, right? But when I see what I think a council member shared in a video, and what I see, in my neighborhood, half the street not getting swept because cars are still parked there. I wonder, there's got to be a better way. So I'd love to look into opportunities for some reduction there, or at least being more effective with those funds. The very first one, the citywide parks and landscape services, whether it's this contract or another fund, I know the state has some, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but there's going to be some new rules about, what do they call it, like unused unused grass areas that we actually have to reduce water usage for and replant. So I'd like to understand going forward, what is the opportunity for maintenance savings and water cost savings by taking actions to replant some of those less useful public areas with a less water hungry and maybe less maintenance intensive planting. I saw your mic turn on, so you may have a response to that already.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, if I can answer that. So, Councilmember Reynolds, many years ago when the water emergency came about, the city actually went and, a lot of our medians, for example, are already drought tolerant, or we have planted, we don't have grasses, for example, in the medians as much as we used to have before. So, and most of our landscaping is also recycled water too. So we try to be cognizant of that. But again, most of our other park areas have grasses, and that needs watering, as so we cannot do much about those kind of areas.
Yeah. So maybe it's an update on what are there any existing areas in the city that would fall under that new law? And I know you know what I'm talking about, even though I can't remember the name of it. Is it really a small sliver, in which case no big changes, just some minor stuff, or are there some larger areas?
Yes.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Thank you. Questions on the arts and culture master plan. I'm trying to remember which slide that was. Carol, when you presented it, here it is, 15. When you presented this, you talked about that fund being underwater and then potentially more underwater based on some recommendations from the commission. Can you just describe that again? I didn't follow.
Of course. Well, as you know, the Arts and Culture Master Plan receives half of the percentage of the Measure Q. So we're anticipating to, receive probably around 230,000, 240,000, depending on how things go, obviously. But we fully funded the Arts and Culture Master Plan, which totals about 416,000. The Art Commission's recommendation was to essentially enhance that budget in 25-26 by $110,000. So as you can see, bottom line total expenditures with that recommendation would total about $568,000 against a $230,000 revenue. So it'll be upside down by about $340,000.
Got it. Okay. So their recommendation was to add $110K to the sort of existing proposed budget.
Correct. So they worded it a little bit differently. They said to, essentially roll it over from the prior year, but essentially it grows the budget.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, my thoughts are that I haven't fully caught up on the discussion there, but I know I had a discussion with Director Gruner about sort of looking forward on the Arts and Culture Master Plan. I think you mentioned it in your comments that we're at the or nearing the end or in the last year of the approved Arts and Culture Master Plan, and have a process planned for that public input to shape the Arts and Culture Plan going forward. I appreciate the commissioners bringing recommendations of ideas, and my preference would be, instead of adding just one idea prior to all of that public engagement, that we do that public engagement to shape priorities going forward. Because there's basically, we'd be, by accepting this recommendation, we're ignoring an opportunity for the broader public, including other council members, to give ideas of things that we might want to have to see in that arts and culture master plan. So that would be my recommendation to the council here, is to not add that 110K on a single program that didn't really have an opportunity for broad public input, and instead allow the process to move forward of a public engagement. I love the idea of it being commission-led, working with the director, but broader public engagement to get lots of ideas that the commission can evaluate and respond to. Okay, a few more here. I agree with Councilmember Mar's concerns about sort of the cannabis and how much are we spending versus how much are we getting back. I know there's a lot of effort for like ongoing oversight and sort of checking to make sure that rules are being followed. I think there's effort in making sure that we're getting the appropriate revenue that we're supposed to be getting, and if all of that effort is not, I'd like to know how that effort compares to what we're actually receiving from cannabis. Okay, attachment 3, a couple questions going into the book. This question is for Raja. The bus shelter advertising, I see the numbers in the proposed budget are the same as last year. I know we're working on a potentially enhanced bus shelter advertising plan. We also have funds to increase the number of bus shelters. Do you expect, are you just being cautious and we expect that number to increase?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Reynolds, yeah, we are trying to be cautious at this time. The proposals are being reviewed right now, and we should have an answer hopefully in about a couple months.
Okay.
So we can make whatever adjustments to the budget at that time.
Okay.
But we're
So
trying to
it'll
be
take
cautious.
time to roll out
Yes.
the program. Okay, okay. I'm sorry, we're receiving RFPs now, evaluating RFPs now is what I heard?
We are evaluating right
Okay, okay, great, okay. That makes sense, helpful to know that like, that number should be higher next year, or maybe later this year. And I'm not sure who this goes to, but I saw, so the 3175 airway rental, that number dropped to 0. Is that just moving that to a different bucket?
And no, essentially, the police department property and evidence will be taking that
Okay,
slot.
that's not the shelter, that's
Correct.
the additional rentals, okay, space, okay, thank you. And then in attachment 5, this relates to my previous comment, so about 3.4 million on landscaping and sprinklers, so I've already mentioned my comments on that. I had similar questions about the increase in legal fees, so I'd love to get some information about just the what caused that increase. Okay, last area, I want to come back to planning and development services. Carrie, I'm probably going to have some questions for you. This is an area where, as already noted in the presentations, huge amount of activity from regular residential permits, business permits. There's new state laws, it feels like every month, on streamlining and other things. I know we have a lot of interest in streamlining here. Housing element implementation, we just approved the rezoning. You have a lot of work on your plate. We've worked really hard to fill positions and staff up, and I know we have some key vacancies, so I'd like to hear from you directly on how concerned we should be that we're able to get the work done that we want to get done in the next 12 to 18 months. Do you have the capacity? What do you need to get those positions filled? What do you need to be able to continue work as months go by?
Great, thank you. Thank you for the question, Councilmember Reynolds, and thank you, City Council. Yes, so I think several council members may have alluded to this. The department is experiencing some vacancies in some critical key positions. Two of them just came up very recently, and then we've had some vacancies during the past fiscal year that it's still taking us some time to fill them, in part because there is a very competitive
labor market right now. It's very, all the different local agencies are vying for the most talented candidates, and so we're in that competition as well. So we do have quite a few vacancies. We are working as hard as we can to fill them with assistance from our very capable human resources group. Casima and Miranda and their staff have been amazing. And typically how we handle this is, we are progressing our recruitments as quickly as possible. And then in the meantime, traditionally the department has relied on consultant assistance. And so as the City Council may recall, earlier this year, the City Council awarded 8 contracts to on-call consultants, in part to provide assistance during vacancies. Now, of course, the ability of the department and the city in general to use consultants is dependent on budget availability, and that's been a bit of a challenge in the last couple months. We're hoping that in the new fiscal year, as the vacancies continue, that we will be able to draw upon any available budget resources for the use of consultants. What that does is consulting firms have a bench of talent that, for example, they can come and plug into our office, and because most planning regulations are consistent throughout state law, they can go from city to city, it takes a fairly compact ramp-up period for them to be able to assist. And so for processing development projects, for overseeing some of the city's major initiatives like rezoning, like the Fairview developmental center-specific plan. Consultants can assist in all of that, and so it's our hope that when the new fiscal year begins, we'll be able to use consultant resources to fill in some of our vacancies while we do the recruitments, and as soon as we fill those positions, we obviously will transition those consultants out. So that's the typical plan, and I hope that that provides the council a little reassurance on how we maintain staffing levels in order to keep the initiatives moving. But during times when there are budget challenges, we do feel the effect of that as well. So I hope that adds a little bit of clarity.
Yeah, and so you're actively recruiting to fill some of the critical positions.
Correct.
What is an estimated time frame to fill those? I know it could vary so much, but share what,
Sure.
best case.
Fast recruitment takes about 3 to 4 months. And then those that are more challenging can be upwards of 9 months to a year. So that's kind of the range. And it all depends on what level we are trying to fill and the candidate pool that's available out there.
Yeah. Okay. And how, you've already, I think you've touched on this, but I just really want to understand how much do the vacancies right now, new vacancies or existing vacancies, impede the work that we are hoping to get done this year and in 2026?
Sure. So right now, the department vacancies are not impacting day-to-day operations yet. However, some of the initiatives that the department would like to take on, for example, a technical cleanup of the municipal code to remove antiquated regulations that no longer serve the best interests of the city in terms of business improvements, minor commercial improvements, things like that. We're not able to take on initiatives like that to clean up the code, and that means that our day-to-day staff is spending more time trying to find ad hoc case-by-case workarounds. Right, so that's an example of right now. But day-to-day operations, as you saw from some of our performance metrics, we are managing that because at the end of the day, the customer serving, permitting activity, that's our bread and butter, and we try to make sure that we don't impact that. From a future standpoint, some of the vacancies that we just learned about, that will impact some of our long-term initiatives. And so we will be actively seeking outside consultant help in order to plug in order to not incur any delays. And so I'm already, because we just found out about that recently, we're planning for that now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that, and I won't ask you to propose solutions now, but I would invite you, and I would ask, hopefully, have support from council. I think given our priorities and initiatives and the feedback that you hear, hopefully there would be support to make sure that resources are in place as needed to keep both the day-to-day going, also the sort of visioning and rezoning exercises, as getting the housing element implementation in place as soon as possible. So whatever thought you need to put into that and conversations need to happen, that would be an area where I would be comfortable going into reserves if needed to make sure that there's funding available to keep that work going. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so those are my questions. I'll just reiterate again, thank you all for the work and the thought put into this budget. Really appreciate the caution, really appreciate everyone looking for ways to sort of pinch. I support the slowdown on CIP because we have a huge backlog anyways, and a more thoughtful planning process coming next year. I understand the freeze on filling existing vacancies. I agree with Councilmember Marr's comments about keeping how critical it is to keep current position staff, to keep all of that day-to-day work going. I do think I want to make sure that we're filling positions as needed to get that work done. And then, as I mentioned, I would like to explore, if needed, additional funding as a stopgap, I guess, given the vacancies in planning. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Manuel.
Thank you, John. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today on this thoughtful conversation. I'll begin by kind of acknowledging a little bit of my Catholic faith today, just because, we got a new Pope, Pope Leo XIV, and it's kind of on my mind a little bit. So if you forgive me, I want to repurpose the Bible verse quickly, because I think it fits very well into what we're doing today. Just as the body, though one, has many parts, but all its parts form one body. We are here today, the testament to all the employees of Costa Mesa. And I know oftentimes we praise the directors, we praise the staff we see, but I'm also thinking of all the employees I see throughout all Costa Mesa. I'm thinking of Sloan at the city pool, who greets every kid with a smile on her face, making sure all those 300 students learning how to swim get a nice presence from the city of Costa Mesa. I'm thinking of Officer Dean, who at the Ray career fair saw 4 students who are at risk of joining gangs and pulled them aside and talked to them as a human being. I'm thinking of the countless people in public works who clean the graffiti, who make sure our streets are cleaned. And I'm thinking of all the directors who I interact with more frequently. This budget is incredible. Thank you, city manager team. Thank you, Carol, all the directors for making sure we have a budget that doesn't really harm our existing employees and still fills our mission, which in my eyes has always been 3 things: keeping everyone Costa Mesa safe, making sure we're financially responsible, and still investing in the community. So thank you to everyone for all this budget. I know it wasn't easy to do, but I want to say thank you so much because everyone played a part in this to serve our community. So with that, I'll go over a few quick hits. I'm going to already mention a few things, but I want to acknowledge some things as well, support some of their comments prior. When it comes to the Art Commission, I think that's very emblematic of one of the struggles we've had for the past couple of years about committees. The desire of residents to use their voice to advance and promote good policy for all of Costa Mesa. And I think the buck has to start with council. I don't think there was a time on my time on city council, 6 years, that we've actually directed the committees to look at certain projects. And in fact, I almost feel like they're looking for ways to be useful. So I'm really excited to have that conversation again and go through each committee and see what goal council wants to give them to solve. They are on the ground, they talk to the residents, they talk to staff appropriately, but we should be giving them direction. And the Arts Commission recommendation is a prime example of that. That recommendation on a 4-2 vote was done in an effort to find a role for them to play. Council should give them that role. So I'm looking forward to that conversation because that'll probably help us make sure they're guided and they're not spending staff resource or budget or very limited budget we have on things council doesn't want to focus on. When it comes to public works, again, I cannot give more praise to Raja and his team. It's incredible how much good work they do in Costa Mesa. And yes, I agree. This halting of the can for 1 year might be a blessing in disguise. We never want to not put that much money into physically seeing our city improve through parks, through roads, et cetera. But we have a huge backlog. We've been incredibly blessed by having multiple friends throughout California and in Congress. Councilmember Dave Min gave us money. Assemblywoman Cody Pichinores gave us money. Supervisor Foley, our old mayor, gave us money. All these projects are backlogged, and I think it's a good breather. I know it won't be perfect, but a good breather for our team to have a chance to actually have those projects come to fruition. We heard the gentleman come from Bentwood Park. And we know, because we were all in this council meeting together, when we discussed vocally how much we had to prioritize Shalimar Park and Ella Park because of the grant funding. So until that gets done, we can't focus on Brentwood. And Brentwood needs new park equipment, and I want to see them get it because, gosh darn it, they've been advocating for it for years, politely, with kids, not with kids. You know, that's the point of Costa Mesa, right? We mentioned street sweeping contracts. I agree with Arliss. You know, it's a little unfair to blame the contractor when it's our residents' cars who are blocking them from cleaning the streets. I look forward to any option we have. I know we may not want to do ticketing, but I will say in my district where we have the ticketing, our streets do get cleaned. So there's something to be said about having to have the tough conversation if you want to have clean streets all throughout Costa Mesa. On cannabis, I'll touch briefly on Andrea's comments because he does make a really good point, and I'll just say it out loud. We've known for a while that there's an organic cap in Costa Mesa. For a lot of reasons, we had to not, because of the process played out, we had to allow everyone that was at a certain point in the process to go through the process. But it's very evident that we're not going to see more revenue from cannabis. So I also agree with Andrea and Arliss that once we have a mid-review, we should see if we can bring back those code enforcement officers. I think through time, organically, the market will rise, and the best will rise, and the ones that aren't the best won't. And that's just market capitalism. That's America at its finest. But we do acknowledge the point that residents have made throughout the couple years that they do want cannabis, but not this level of amount. So I want to acknowledge that point. That being said, though, on the cannabis tax, we were trying to be creative with the 0.5% going to arts and the 0.5% going to the first-time home buyer program. At this point, I'm really interested and open to having a conversation about maybe changing the funding scheme and making it 1% to arts and 1% to first-time buyer program. I'm not sure if it requires us to reopen cannabis or not, but I think it's very evident looking at the Arts Commission budget that we do need to have more money going to them and more money going to that first-time home buyer program. On the tennis center, I appreciate the breakdown of how little that actually is in the scheme of our big budget. But I do want us to be at least making more revenue. And if we're $4 off Fountain Valley, which are nearest city, we should definitely be at least matching them just for our own sake to make sure that we're justifying how much we're investing in the tennis center. And I do want us to look, particularly when it comes to pickleball, of doing a payment per person, because I've been to the tennis center multiple times. There's 8 people per pickleball court. At a certain point, we're just giving them away for free. So that should be addressed. And I also want to have a conversation, and it doesn't need to be discussed this budget, but about maybe doing like a monthly membership fee. Maybe that's a better way for us to recoup funds, as opposed to one paying per time. Yeah, I think that's it. I really want to just say, bottom of my heart, this was a really good budget. I know it's difficult with uncertain times, but when I look at every department, break down their roles, I see the effort of care you put in to balance your existing employees and the need of the city. And I'm super happy that we're not seeing anyone be cut who's currently employed. Yes, it's unfortunate to see some vacant positions be removed, but I prefer that a million times more than seeing an employee not being Costa Mesa. Because at the end of the day, it's the employees who are the bloodstream of our city. Council gives direction, directors kind of facilitate it, but it's the employees that make sure it gets done. So I want to thank you guys. I hope residents see how much we care about our community and how much we're doing our best to make sure even through tough times we serve them. But most of all, I'm extremely pleased that this is a balanced budget in tough times. So Carol, thank you to your team. Alma, Cecilia, thank you for the great work you've done steering this. I'm really pleased with this budget. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. So I've just got a few things to say. I'd like to thank everybody and congratulate you on getting halfway through the meeting. No, sir, I just have to echo everything that the other council members, particularly that Mayor Pro Tem Chavez just said about the staff. I mean, from top to bottom, this is a really great staff that works very hard, and I appreciate all the reports that were made. But like Mayor Pro Tem said, it's all the little things, you know. It's like he was, you know, right on point with the officer who diverts somebody who might be in a gang and they're not in a gang anymore. I mean, all these examples that you see on a daily basis, and we could all go on, but I mean, and I look at all the departments. I mean, I drive around the community a lot. I used to work and live in Costa Mesa. I now work in Irvine, but I drive through Costa Mesa, and just seeing some of the public works projects are just amazing. And then going to the meeting that we had with the coaches and the people that, you know, field utilization meeting with parks, and hearing from the school district about the lives that are being saved because people are learning how to swim. And I appreciate the comments that Arliss made about that, and I echo and second those comments. IT is doing great. This budget is challenging. You have a lot of challenges here. You've got a lot of external things that are happening, and mostly a lot of uncertainty. I mean, who knows? We really don't know where we're going to be in 6 months. So we need to be able to kind of roll with the punches. And so this is, budgets just the way they are, is budgets are all about estimates. And I mean, who knows how much money the cannabis is going to make? You don't know. I don't expect you to know. Nobody knows. Nobody knows what's going to happen. We don't know whether there's going to be a recession. We don't know whether we're going to be, I mean, this group, for the most part, was here during the recession. And I guarantee we didn't, during the pandemic, and I guarantee we didn't anticipate that, but it happened. Something similar could happen. We're living in very uncertain times, and thank you to the staff for being able to adapt to that and roll with it. And public safety, crime being down, getting those reports all the time, that's great. And the way that the fire has stepped up and gone to all these wildfires and still taken care of the fires and the medical incidents at home. And also, as Chief Stefano said, tomorrow, I think it is, we're going to be at, or maybe it's the next day, Thursday, we're going to be at Balearic talking about our preparedness for emergencies, and it's really pretty amazing what we have. And the Mesa Water, too, is going to be there and talk about our ability to have water. So it's a great city, and it's a total team effort. And I appreciate the council. One of the things I felt bad, and I feel bad every year when this happens because I'm not really good at record keeping, so I don't have the first clue how many texts I respond to, or how many meetings I go to, or how many ribbon cuttings I go to, or it's a lot. And it's a lot, and these other council members do it too. And so we don't have the data to share with you, but let's just say it's a lot. So thank you to everything that the council does. It's an important department. And because we're on the ground and we're residents, and we bring these things to the staff, and the staff executes. So thank you to all of you and for your participation. I have a few things, a few questions. I just really want to understand a little bit better, and maybe I'm the only one that's still a little unclear about this, what we're being asked to do in terms of CAN. And just to give people a little bit of history on CAN. CAN was it was approved as an ordinance in September of 2015. Prior to 2015, it was a policy It was approved on a 3-2 vote with Sandy Guinness, and I love that, by the way, the Mayor Pro Tem called Katrina the old mayor. Because she always calls me the new mayor. And I'm like, after 4 years, can I be not the new mayor? But it's cool that you call her the old mayor. But anyway, but she voted against it. I went back and I watched the deliberations. Quite honestly, I probably would have voted against it. And of course, unfortunately, I lost in 2012. And so I wasn't up there. And so, you know, if I would have won, we wouldn't have a CAN ordinance. So I'm not a big fan of CAN. However, it's on, as I said last time, it's on the books. So we have a choice. We either comply with it or we amend it or repeal it. And that's what I was talking about at the last meeting. So I do want to put that on the table. But I want to understand it first. Okay, under the current, if you look at page 2 of the staff report, it's the best place I can go for this data. It says proposed budget, capital budget, and it says proposed for 25, 26, 16, basically 16.7 million. So how much of that, and then we later see in the presentation a reference to 28 million. The 28 million is the 16.7 million plus the $12 million bond, okay? Let me just ask a little question about the bond. Is there any time frame on why are we including that bond in the 25-26 budget discussions? Do we think it's gonna land in the 25-26 fiscal year?
Yes, my understanding is we will be coming to the council by the end of this calendar year to move forward with the bond, which is why we reinstated the $1 million in the bond payment in the 25-26 year.
Okay. So when we include it in the 20, and I know is it entirely for the Station 2, or are there other projects that it will fund?
At this moment, it's entirely for Station 2.
Okay. And we think that money, we're going to actually be able to recognize and book that money in 25-26 when we get it from the bond, the bond participants, whatever you call them?
I'm not quite sure if we'll be able to recognize it entirely, but I did think it is important for you to be aware of that we're moving forward with the bond in 25-26, and I definitely want to make sure that, along with Public Works Director and the Fire Chief, that this gets done.
Okay. So whatever it is, though, the $12 million, where at its current point of gestation, we cannot include that in the CAN, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then you go to the 16.7. How much of that 16.7 is money that we obtain from other sources like M2 funding, gas tax, things of that nature, grants that we might get from generous senators and supervisors and things like that, and how much of it comes from the general fund?
So at this moment in time, technically, only $2.2 million came from the general fund from prior years. The balance are special revenue funds.
Okay. And so $2.2 million. And so if you take CAN the way it's currently drafted, like it or not, it's $2.2 million is the only amount that could count toward CAN, right?
No, because though that $2.2 million was allocated to the capital fund in prior years.
So how much of the 16.7 can we count toward the 5% CAN number, if anything?
At this moment, nothing.
Okay, nothing. And so if we were to apply CAN to this budget, how much would be what would the number of 5% be?
Be close to $7 million.
7 million, okay. So in asking us to do a finding of an economic downturn by a supermajority vote, we would be, and therefore not complying with CAN, which is the accurate wording, not waiving, not complying with CAN, we would be saying that $7 million, we have to do something with that. Now, under one of the provisions that we looked at, I think in our last meeting, was this provision that says you have to plan for restoring that money, okay? And so we would have to plan for restoring, and we did that last time. We part of my motion, we voted on it, it was 2.9 million, not 7 million. We decided to spread it out over 5 years, not 10 years. And we decided to spend that money whether or not revenues exceeded expenses. That was my motion, and it passed 5-0. So now we're dealing with $7 million. Do we have a plan that staff can articulate tonight about how we're going to restore that $7 million to be in compliance with the law? Or is that something that's going to come at a later meeting?
That would be something that would be coming at the public hearing night.
On the 3rd of June?
On the 3rd of June.
Okay. Do you have previews of coming attractions for us?
My recommendation would to do something similar that we did with the current fiscal year, which would be to spread it over a set number of years that would be affordable.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we got this $7 million bogey that we're dealing with. We can just say we're going to spread it all out over years in advance, or some plan that you articulate to us on the 3rd of June. Or we can do some other combination. And it's kind of like what I was getting at with my motion the other night. And as I said, sometimes I'm not clear. I mean, I want to try to be a little bit more clear, and maybe I'll miss it. But we can meet, we can talk. We don't need to talk in public all the time. So one way we can take that $7 million and reduce it is use some of these reserves that we've set aside and squirreled away to $60 million, right?
Correct.
Okay. And so for every dollar we use out of reserves is a dollar that would come off that 7 million, and therefore less money that would need to be spread out over a number of years, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then if we're able to look at these contracts that Jeff mentioned and I mentioned before, these consulting contracts, assuming we're able to save some money, sharpen our pencil on those, then that money would come out off the 7 million, right?
Okay.
Okay. The other thing I thought about, and I want to ask you a question, is I have never met a council member that doesn't believe in spending money on infrastructure projects, and I don't think I've ever voted against an infrastructure project or a capital improvement project. In prior years, isn't it true that we've spent in prior years more than 5% in some years when we had the money to do it?
We could have spent it, yes, I'd have to take a look.
I think that'd be good, because it's like in thinking about maybe amending CAN or revising it if we don't repeal it, it made me think, well, maybe in a year that we're having a good year, we spend 8%. And maybe you could create like a bank, okay? So say you have 4 years where you do 7%, 6%, 8%, 8%. Now you've got money in the bank, in the CAN bank, if you will. And so if you have a down year, you could pull from that bank. Okay, I think that would make a lot of sense, because it would incentivize councils and staff to spend money on infrastructure projects when we have the money. And then in the years that we don't, we then use that and we draw off the bank that we've created. So I want us to think about that if the council has an appetite to amend CAN. As opposed to just, and the other thing too is, city attorney, let's say for the sake of discussion, the council said, you know what? Well, we want to repeal CAN. Do we have time to do it between now and the approval of the budget?
If you wanted to repeal it in such time as to not have it apply to adoption of the next budget, it would need to be an urgency ordinance.
Okay. And that would same would be true with respect to same would be true with respect to amending it, correct?
That's correct.
And to amend or repeal CAN would require a majority of the council, correct?
Yeah, an urgency ordinance normally would require a supermajority. It's not a moratorium, but it's still an urgency ordinance.
Sure.
What I typically would do is bring, based on direction, bring both an urgency ordinance and a regular ordinance, so you'd have one with 2 readings in case there was any claim of lack of urgency. That would only require a majority vote. But of course, that wouldn't take effect until 30 days after the second reading.
Which would be well after the time within which we need to amend the budget.
Correct.
Or adopt the budget.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Okay, so then, this again for the city attorney. If we have a plan that we agree on and we vote on, as we did the other night with respect to 24-25, and we do not execute on that plan, what are the consequences, if any, to the city of not following through with a plan that is voted on by the council?
In theory, somebody could sue for a violation of the municipal code requirement. There's no specific penalty or punishment, if you will, that's included in the code. I have had, in other communities at least, individuals sue a city council claiming that they had violated their own code and seeking some sort of injunctive or declaratory relief that they had to comply.
Yeah, and I want to be crystal clear about, because again, I don't want to be misunderstood. I like the CAN policy. I like investing in infrastructure projects. What I don't like is this kind of thing that we're going through now, which to me seems a little bit, it just doesn't seem right, because I have nobody does, as I said, everything's uncertain, but I have no realistic expectation that we're going to be able to make our CAN next year, plus what we added to it the other night, plus what we're being proposed to add to it again, right? So what I see is that we're going through an exercise, but it's not it's not realistic. I'm dubious that we'll be able to perform under what we would be putting out as a plan, right? And so I think if it is a law, I think we've got to follow it and be genuine about it. And I think that we have to be a little bit more direct about this CAN thing. Also, I do not share, like Mayor Pro Tem and Arliss and everything like that, I don't share their view that it's a good thing that we would take a holiday on some of these projects to kind of catch up. I just don't think it works that way. We have to continue to invest in infrastructure projects, because our infrastructure only further deteriorates, and it creates a more expensive project at higher costs if we defer the project. I've been up here long enough to know that that's true. Enough about CAN. I do want to throw this out there. These are not necessarily questions, although I do have one question, I think, for Carol. The TOT tax. Here's some data. The TOT tax is not, by the way, I'm on the board of Travel Costa Mesa, so I have a keen interest in this particular issue. The TOT tax has not been changed in the city of Costa Mesa since 2010. The TOT tax in Costa Mesa is 8%. Only Irvine in our area has an 8% TOT tax. Other cities have the following: Newport 10%, Huntington Beach 10%, Dana Point 10%, San Juan Capistrano 10%, Santa Ana 11.4%, Anaheim, which, by the way, last I checked, gets a ton of tourism, 15%. Garden Grove, 14.5%. Fountain Valley, 9%. So if you kind of look at and where the sort of the midline or median or average lies, it's about 10%. If you added 2% to our 8%, you'd have another $2 million in our bottom line. TOT tax, if people don't know, or transient occupancy tax or hotel tax, is paid by people who come to our hotels, and we're obviously under market, and we have not adjusted the tax for 15 years. It will have to go to the voters. The voters would have to vote this in. They can only do so, of course, in 2016. And I think it's something to seriously consider, particularly in advance of the 2028 Olympics. We are having these issues right now. I don't think these issues are going to necessarily go away. I don't think it's the first time we're going to talk about uncertainty and potential downturns and issues with tourism. I mean, one of the problems we're having with tourism is Canadians are not coming to California. Obviously, Mexican tourists are not coming to California. North American tourists, it's difficult. The Asian tourism has not recovered from the pandemic, and now they do not expect it to recover until about 2029. So, but anyway, this is an interesting thing to kind of look at. I'd like the staff to consider whether we put a TOT tax increase, a modest one, just to get us up to the bottom of the market, or more, if that's what the council wants to do on the ballot in 2026. We're leaving money on the table. And that money can be used for some of the great staff that we've complimented here today, right? For pay increases, things of that nature that they deserve. And infrastructure. On the second attachment to the staff report, it shows, we've looked at it before, Fund 140, first-time homebuyers program. It has a listing of 16,132,000, 238,000, and 242,000. That adds up to about 628,000. It was actually 629,000, close to 630,000. I'd like to see us move forward with the first-time homebuyers program, since we have 630,000 set aside for that in a fund, and I'd like to see that working for the residents and reducing the cost of obtaining a house in the city of Costa Mesa. You can help a lot of people buy a home in Costa Mesa for $630,000. So that's something I'd like to see happen certainly this year. 3% reduction in while it's true, what I said about Canada and North America and all that stuff, Visit California recently came out with their May revision, and their current estimate of the reduction is 0.7%. So just, that was told to me by Paulette today. On these numbers, what I'd ask you to do, Carol, is drill down with Paulette. She knows this stuff like the back of her hand, and I mean, Paulette Lombardi-Fries, by the way, of Travel Costa Mesa, and I was having the discussion with her, and she's just pulling data so easily and fluidly to get us an accurate number, because that's a significant amount of money, and maybe a change to our budget. the way I look at it, I look at that we've increased, the way that the increase in employees is portrayed is kind of interesting. We have a graph that says full-time employees, but then later on in the budget presentation, we talk about part-time employees. So our full-time and part-time FTEs is 706.48. I'd like to see, and I'd like to see like what was what did we do? What have we done exactly? I mean, I voted on as I said, countless infrastructure projects and countless additions to FTEs. So I just like an assessment, right? I mean, I love everybody who's worked really hard. I mean, I sincerely mean that, but we've added a lot of FTEs, and so I'd like to know, how's it worked out? I mean, over 6 years, just as our own assessment of our own performance. I mean, you know, how much has it cost us? Who have we added? And have those positions, you know, have they done what we expected them to do? If there's some way to do that. And maybe it's not something that we need to even do before the budget, but I'd like to at some point in time have that, so just I know what we've done, and just as an assessment of numerous decisions that have been made by the council in the last several years. But that's it. I mean, really, again, compliments for all the hard work. It was an extremely long and content-rich presentation under very difficult circumstances, and I want you to know, I want everyone to know that I appreciate the work that they did, and council too. Great questions, council, great engagement, and I'm glad to be up here with you. Okay? Does anybody want a second bite of the apple?
I do.
Yes, Lauren.
Give me 1 second here. I had some notes. Let me get to my notes. I'm usually pretty brief here, so 1 second. Okay, I'd like to make an ask here, and I'm just going to put it up tonight so that if maybe we can do it or not, but regarding management positions, I heard earlier that it's very competitive and we're losing some of them. And I'm wondering if we could agendize a closed session for the unrepresented employees and management positions, I guess for a salary investigation or whatever it is, to look and make sure that we are actually competitive with what's going on, and we're not going to look at losing people in key positions due to probably an insignificant amount of money that we might need to be compensating people for, as far as what's going on in other cities and stuff like that. Can we agendize that tonight for the next closed session?
Do you mean for the continuing closed session after this meeting, or do you mean for the 20th?
That'd be great if we could do it tonight, but do I need a second on something like
We
that?
would have to walk that on tonight, but I'm sure that we can put that on the agenda for May 20th.
So however it needs to be done, I would like to do it as soon as possible. If we can get it done tonight, where we talk about it tonight, that would be really nice.
Lauren, I'll second it for the next one, only because it's going to be a long night tonight. We got like 6 things, but I support your idea or your request. I'm not sure what it is yet, but cool with that, 20th?
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, anybody else? Okay, we're going to adjourn back to the closed session, and thanks again, staff, and we'll go to the community room.